परमिशन चाहता हूँ, अनुमति चाहता हूँ. It is indeed a matter of great privilege for us to be here this morning. जैसा कि आप सभी को विदित है और अभी बताया भी गया है कि देश ने एक बहुत बड़ा जो मुकाम हासिल किया है कल, हमारा चंद्रयान, हम लोग चांद पे पहुंच गए हैं. आई थिंक दैट वाज अ बिग अचीवमेंट एंड वी हैव ऑल सेलिब्रेटेड इट यस्टरडे. और आज भी हम चाहते हैं कि आप लोग तालियों के साथ देश की इस अचीवमेंट को हम लोग अच्छे से उसको मनाएं, उसका आघोष करें. साथ ही साथ इस कॉन्फ्रेंस का आयोजन होने की जब बात हुई तो MeitY वॉज ऑल्सो इन्वॉल्व अलॉन्ग विद DRPG. तो जब सेक्रेटरी DRPG आए और हम लोगों से बात की, जब सिलेक्शन की बात आई, तो जब इंदौर का बात आई और मध्य प्रदेश की बात आई, तो हमने कहा कि इससे अच्छा तो कोई ना तो कोई स्टेट हो सकता है, ना कोई शहर हो सकता है. इंदौर का विषय मैं पिछले ऑलमोस्ट 2 डिकेड 20 साल से मैं इस सिटी को जानता हूँ. और मुझे ये भी मालूम है कि 15 साल पहले नीरज मंडलोई यहाँ कमिश्नर होते थे. उस समय जब स्मार्ट सिटी का हमने कॉन्सेप्ट चालू किया, मैं उस समय अर्बन डेवलपमेंट में मिनिस्टर का PS होता था. JNNURM का कॉन्सेप्ट चालू हुआ एंड इंदौर वाज वन ऑफ द फर्स्ट फ्यू सिटीज जिन्होंने JNNURM की सभी स्कीम का फायदा उठाया और इंदौर को देश का सबसे अच्छा शहर बनाने में इनका सभी कमिश्नर्स की और जितने भी यहाँ के सांसद, माननीय सांसद और जो यहाँ के मेयर हैं, उन सब का बहुत बड़ा योगदान और ऑफ कोर्स शहर की जनता का बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहा. और कल जो MOEF का जो नया इंडेक्स आया है, जिसमें कि एयर क्वालिटी इंडेक्स में भी इस शहर को देश का सबसे अव्वल शहर माना गया है. आई थिंक दैट्स अ मैटर ऑफ प्राउड फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस. मुझे लगता है कि मैनी ऑफ अस, जो हम लोग सर दिल्ली से आए हैं, देश के ऐसे शहरों से आए हैं जहाँ की एयर क्वालिटी हमेशा 150-200 से ऊपर ही चलती है. मुझे लगता है यहाँ से कुछ अच्छी हवा लेके अपने फेफड़े साफ करके हम लोग यहाँ से जाएं तो मुझे लगता है इट विल ऐड टू आवर लॉन्जेविटी. मुझे लगता है जिंदगी के 2-5 साल बढ़ जाएंगे सर हम लोगों के. सो आई वुड लाइक टू कॉन्ग्रेचुलेट सर एंड आई वुड लाइक टू थैंक यू फॉर गिविंग अस दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी कि हम लोग मध्य प्रदेश में हैं और हम इंदौर में हैं. जहाँ तक डिजिटल इंडिया का सवाल है सर, DRPG or MeitY has been organizing this conference for the last 26 years. This is the 26th conference. Since 1997, we have been doing it. But what has been achieved in last 9-10 years has been really remarkable. The whole focus of the government has been shifted that we must focus on every citizen. We have to connect everyone who is unconnected. We have to reach everyone who is still unreached. The last mile connectivity, the last mile contact, and no one should be left behind. इस उद्देश्य के साथ जो देश में प्रधानमंत्री जी ने आह्वान किया कि we should take this forward, the whole focus of the government on digital governance has been on ease of living for citizens, for ease of doing business, for each of its entrepreneurs, startups, MSMEs, and ease of governance. The services of the government, the welfare schemes should be delivered to the citizens without any hassle, seamlessly, and that has been the objective. And with these objectives in mind, we have been moving ahead with this, and I'm so happy that this National E-Governance Conference is now being organized at Indore today. This conference will provide a platform for discussion on some of the latest technology for promoting e-governance. The theme of the governance is Viksit Bharat, Empowering Citizens. Digital governance rests on 4 key pillars: processes, people, technology, and resources.
This is where business is, where clouds form, innovation thrives. But storms lie in wait for the unprepared, turning business upside down. SentinelOne Singularity Cloud is purpose-built to secure any workload in any environment, delivering AI-powered cloud protection without compromising performance. SentinelOne Singularity Cloud. Secure the cloud. Avoid the storm.
रावत जी, हमारे साथ माननीय सांसद श्री शंकर लालवानी जी एग्जीबिशन का अवलोकन कर रहे हैं और फीता काटकर रिबन काटकर इनॉग्रेशन का शुभारंभ किया। Heartily welcome to 26th National E-Governance Conference at Indore, Madhya Pradesh, and we are having our special guest with us, श्री ओम प्रकाश सकलेचा जी, मंत्री सूक्ष्म लघु एवं मध्यम उद्यम विज्ञान एवं प्रौद्योगिकी। साथ ही हमारे बीच हैं माननीय श्री तुलसीराम सिलावट जी, जल संसाधन मछुआ कल्याण तथा मत्स्य विभाग मध्य प्रदेश से। साथ ही हमारे साथ हैं श्री शैतान सिंह पाल जी, अध्यक्ष मध्य प्रदेश स्टेट इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डेवलपमेंट कॉरपोरेशन से, और सांसद श्री शंकर लालवानी जी। आप सभी का शुभागमन हो चुका है और एग्जीबिशन का अवलोकन करते हुए फीता काटकर सबसे पहले आपने एग्जीबिशन का शुभारंभ किया और एग्जीबिशन का अवलोकन करते हुए सम्मानीय अतिथिगण हमारे बीच होंगे और आज के इस फॉर्मल इनॉग्रेशन सेरेमनी का भी शुभारंभ करेंगे सम्मानीय अतिथिगण। जब ज़ीरो दिया मेरे भारत ने दुनिया को तब गिनती आई, तारों की भाषा भारत ने दुनिया को पहले सिखलाई। देता न दशमलव भारत तो यूँ चांद पे जाना मुश्किल था, धरती और चांद की दूरी का अंदाज लगाना मुश्किल था। भारत का रहने वाला हूँ, भारत की बात सुनाता हूँ। और इन्हीं पंक्तियों के साथ आप आज के इस कॉन्फ्रेंस की शुरुआत करते हैं और सबसे पहले हमारे सभी सम्मानीय अतिथिगण आज के इस एग्जीबिशन का शुभारंभ किया फीता काटकर, उसका अवलोकन करते हुए हमारे बीच पधारेंगे। प्रशासनिक सुधार और लोक शिकायत विभाग, DRPG और इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स एवं सूचना प्रौद्योगिकी मंत्रालय भारत सरकार के साथ मिलकर मध्य प्रदेश में आज 2 दिवसीय ई-गवर्नेंस पर 26वां राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन आयोजित हो रहा है और इस सम्मेलन के मुख्य अतिथि विशेष अतिथिगण हमारे बीच पधार चुके हैं। सभी का हम हृदय से स्वागत करेंगे, अभिनंदन करेंगे। हमारे बीच MSME एवं साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी मिनिस्टर श्री ओम प्रकाश सकलेचा जी, साथ ही जल संसाधन मंत्री तुलसीराम सिलावट जी, साथ ही माननीय श्री शैतान सिंह पाल जी, अध्यक्ष मध्य प्रदेश स्टेट इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स डेवलपमेंट कॉरपोरेशन, और सांसद श्री शंकर लालवानी जी का शुभागमन हो चुका है और वे प्रदर्शनी का अवलोकन कर रहे हैं जिसमें तकनीक के माध्यम से किस प्रकार शासन की योजनाओं को जन जन तक पहुंचाने के लिए प्रयासरत है। ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances and Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, in collaboration with the Department of Information Technology, I would like to heartily welcome you all, heartily welcome our special guest at this conference. With a wonderful theme, we are gathered here, Viksit Bharat Sashakt Nagrik, जन जन को सशक्त बनाने का एक प्रयास ई-गवर्नेंस के माध्यम से किस प्रकार से मध्य प्रदेश में ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन आया है गुड गवर्नेंस को लेकर, एंड जस्ट क्लिकिंग अ सिंगल क्लिक हाउ द बेनिफिशरीज कैन बी बेनिफिटेड। और उसका एक बेहतरीन उदाहरण है लाडली बहना योजना, साथ ही में मुख्यमंत्री सीखो कमाओ योजना, जिसके अंतर्गत कई सारे युवा लाभान्वित हो रहे हैं। साथ ही प्रदेश की महिलाओं को सशक्त बनाने के लिए एक अनूठा प्रयास माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी का, और इसमें महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका रही है ई-गवर्नेंस की, और गुड गवर्नेंस प्रैक्टिसेस से कई सारी योजनाएं जन जन तक पहुंचाने के लिए प्रयासरत है शासन। पुनः आप सभी का हृदय से स्वागत है, अभिनंदन है। और हम स्क्रीन के माध्यम से देख सकते हैं कि किस प्रकार से MD मध्य प्रदेश स्टेट इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स डेवलपमेंट श्री अभिजीत अग्रवाल जी समझाते हुए, बताते हुए हमारे सम्माननीय अतिथिगणों को कि तकनीक ने बहुत सारी चीज़ें संभव बनाई हैं जन जन तक पहुंचाने के लिए, जन जन के जीवन को सरल बनाने के लिए, और अलग अलग विभागों द्वारा कई सारे प्रयास हैं जो किए जा रहे हैं और विभिन्न योजनाएं लोगों तक पहुंचाई जा रही हैं उनके जीवन को सरल बनाने के लिए। बात चाहे स्वच्छता की हो, बात चाहे स्वास्थ्य की हो, शिक्षा की हो, सभी लेवल पर योजनाओं के माध्यम से सरकार जन जन के जीवन को सरल बना रही है और इस एग्जीबिशन के माध्यम से ये बखूबी दिखाया गया है। नेशनल क्राइम रिकॉर्ड ब्यूरो का भी स्टॉल है जिसमें बखूबी दिखाया गया है किस प्रकार से तकनीक के माध्यम से क्राइम को भी कंट्रोल किया जा सकता है और क्राइम रेट भी कम किया जा सकता है, क्योंकि अगर देश को विकसित बनाना है तो इसके लिए नागरिक को सशक्त होना सबसे महत्वपूर्ण है। और इसी थीम के साथ हम सभी यहाँ एकत्रित हुए हैं और इस एग्जीबिशन का अवलोकन करते हुए हमारे सभी सम्मानीय अतिथिगण, आज हमारे बीच माननीय श्री ओम प्रकाश सकलेजा जी, साथ ही साथ माननीय श्री शैतान सिंह पाल जी, माननीय सांसद श्री शंकर ललवानी जी उपस्थित हैं और प्रदर्शनी का अवलोकन कर रहे हैं। डिजिटल इंडिया हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी की महत्वाकांक्षी योजनाओं में से एक है और आज हर एक जन जन का जीवन परिवर्तित हो चुका है, डिजिटली ट्रांसफॉर्म्ड हो चुका है और इसके कई सारे उदाहरण हैं। सबसे महत्वपूर्ण उदाहरण आधार है जिसके माध्यम से एक बड़ा नेटवर्क कनेक्टेड हो चुका है। प्रधानमंत्री जी की सबसे महत्वाकांक्षी योजना डिजिटल इंडिया। हम हृदय से स्वागत करेंगे सम्मानीय अतिथिगणों का और वे प्रदर्शनी का अवलोकन कर रहे हैं और इसके पश्चात वे हमारे साथ मंच पे होंगे। आज के इस कॉन्फ्रेंस का फॉर्मल इनॉग्रेशन करेंगे। हमारे बीच पधारे हैं माननीय श्री ओम प्रकाश सकलेचा जी, मंत्री सूक्ष्म लघु एवं मध्यम उद्यम विज्ञान एवं प्रौद्योगिकी, साथ ही माननीय श्री तुलसीराम सिलावट जी, मंत्री जल संसाधन, मछुआ कल्याण तथा मत्स्य विभाग, मध्य प्रदेश शासन से। साथ ही हमारे बीच हैं माननीय श्री शैतान सिंह पाल जी, अध्यक्ष मध्य प्रदेश स्टेट इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डेवलपमेंट कॉरपोरेशन। कुछ ही क्षण में वे हमारे साथ इस प्रांगण में होंगे एग्जीबिशन का अवलोकन करते हुए। सभी सम्मानीय अतिथिगण, विभिन्न विभागों द्वारा अति उत्सुकता से वे अपनी चीज़ें बता रहे हैं कि किस प्रकार से ई गवर्नेंस के ज़रिए, टेक्नोलॉजी के ज़रिए उन्होंने अपनी योजनाओं को जन जन तक पहुंचाने की ठानी है और कितनी सरलतापूर्वक टेक्नोलॉजी के माध्यम से जन जन तक ये योजनाएं पहुंच सकती हैं। Innovation and the Transformative Smart Farming Using Artificial Intelligence, Center for Development of Advanced Computing, मुंबई, टैप-ऑन और कई सारे स्टॉल्स माननीय अतिथिगणों ने अवलोकन किया और कार्यक्रम स्थल पर उनकी अगवानी करते हुए श्री अभिजीत अग्रवाल जी और कुछ ही क्षण में हमारे बीच होंगे हमारे सम्मानीय अतिथिगण और आज के इस फॉर्मल इनॉग्रेशन का शुभारंभ करेंगे। I would like to heartily welcome you all on behalf of Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances and Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology in collaboration with Department of Information Technology, Government of India and Government of Madhya Pradesh. And we are having our special guest. Let us welcome him with a huge round of applause. आइए तालियों के साथ स्वागत करें। हमारे बीच पधारे हैं माननीय श्री तुलसीराम सिलावट जी, साथ ही में माननीय श्री ओम प्रकाश सकलेचा जी, माननीय श्री शैतान सिंह पाल जी। बहुत बहुत स्वागत है, अभिनंदन है आपका आज के इस 26th नेशनल ई गवर्नेंस कॉन्फ्रेंस में। कार्यक्रम में सबसे पहले सम्मानीय अतिथिगणों से निवेदन करेंगे कि दीप प्रज्वलित। हमारे बीच उपस्थित हैं माननीय सांसद शंकर ललवानी जी, उनसे भी निवेदन करेंगे कृपया मंच पर अपना स्थान लें। साथ ही हमारे साथ हैं मंच पर
थे कि रूलर और टेक्नोलॉजी का उपयोग करके उसका फायदा ले रहा है। केवल ये फायदा कहने का नहीं, किसी जमाने में एक सरकार बोलती थी कि हम कुछ भी सुविधाएं दिल्ली से तय करते हैं, शायद 10% तक आखिरी व्यक्ति तक पहुंच पाती है। और अंतर सिर्फ इतना सा आया कि मध्य प्रदेश की सरकार ने 60 दिन में वो काम 1.25 करोड़ महिलाओं तक बिना किसी सिंगल कंप्लेंट के पहुंचा दिया कि 1000 रुपया महीना लाडली बहन को पहुंच जाए। ये अपने आप में बहुत बड़ा अचीवमेंट है। किसान सम्मान निधि पूरा, अगर मैं केंद्र सरकार की बात करूं तो एक बड़ा अचीवमेंट है। और ये ई गवर्नेंस केवल इतना ही नहीं है, पूरे लार्ज प्रोजेक्ट के समता की सुविधा के साथ अगर मैं लार्ज प्रोजेक्ट की बात करूं तो आज हर बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट प्रधानमंत्री जी के टिप्स पे अगर है तो कहीं ना कहीं उसमें ई गवर्नेंस और हर दिन का अपडेट उनके पास उपलब्ध होना। वरना एक जमाना था, जानकारी इकट्ठी करने में महीनों लग जाते थे। हम विधानसभा में बैठते थे शुरू में तो 50% से ज्यादा क्वेश्चन के उत्तर में आता था जानकारी एकत्रित की जा रही है। आज वो शब्द गायब होने लगा कि जानकारी एकत्रित की जा रही है, उसके बजाय डाटा का बंच आ जाता है। और मैं इस बात का भी आज की तारीख में कहना बहुत उचित मानता हूं कि शायद किसी जमाने में एनर्जी का सोर्स सबसे बड़ा सेंटर माना जाता था, आज उसके बराबर की शक्ति डाटा की उपलब्धता पे है। क्योंकि डाटा सेंटर बनाना, उस डाटा का सही उपयोग करके जनता तक कैसे मैक्सिमम पॉसिबल, चाहे ट्रेड हो चाहे हेल्थ सर्विसेज हो। मैं अभी पूछ रहा था कि हेल्थ में हमने जैसे शुरू किया टेलीमेडिसिन, तुरंत कोर्ट से एक विषय आया कि आप टेलीमेडिसिन कैसे शुरू कर रहे हैं, बिना जांचों के डॉक्टर ऑनलाइन कैसे जवाब दें। तुरंत हमारी सरकारों ने व्यवस्था की कि डाटा हर व्यक्ति का कैसे आभा आईडी के माध्यम से उनकी सब जांच रिपोर्टें अवेलेबल हो जाए। और मुझे खुशी है, मैं तो सिर्फ एक छोटी सी जानकारी कि मेरे जैसे छोटे से गांव की कम से कम 15,000 लोगों का पूरा हेल्थ का डाटा उस आभा आईडी पे उपलब्ध है। और उनका चाहे ईसीजी, क्योंकि यहाँ बैठे हुए मैं मानता हूँ कि यहाँ बैठा हुआ हर व्यक्ति ने हर साल या 2 साल में अपना हेल्थ चेकअप जरूर कराता होगा, लेकिन कितने की पास उनकी ईसीजी की रिपोर्ट उनके मोबाइल पे या सरकार के किसी डाटा पे है। क्योंकि हम तो सब ट्रेवल करने वाले लोग हैं, लेकिन मैं गारंटी के साथ कहता हूं कि मेरे अगले महीने तक मैं आपको जानकारी देना चाहता हूं, 1 लाख लोगों का, हर व्यक्ति का जो अबव 45 ईयर है, सबका ईसीजी, सबकी हार्ट, लीवर, किडनी, बोन डेंसिटी, थायराइड, बीपी, शुगर, ये सब की रिपोर्टें पूरे विधानसभा के सभी की ऑनलाइन आभा आईडी पे उपलब्ध होगी। ये प्रोजेक्ट एज ए प्रोजेक्ट हमने एक छोटे से गांव में लेके सफल कर पाए। तो यहाँ बैठी हुई टीम, ये गवर्नेंस का एक सबसे पहला, अगर मैं आत्मनिर्भर भारत की बात करूं तो सबसे पहला सुख निरोगी काया। और उस पर पूरा डाटा अगर हमारा उपलब्ध हो जाए, और अभी अभी आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने ये बोला कि भैया मेडिसिन, जेनेरिक मेडिसिन का नाम लिखना कंपलसरी कर दिया बजाय ब्रांडिंग के, तो ये दोनों चीज़ें जब क्लब हो जाएगी तो हेल्थ सर्विसेज में भी, जैसे किसी ज़माने में ये बात कही जाती थी कि रुपया भेजते हैं 10% पहुँचता है, ऐसे ही मेडिकल सर्विसेज का भी कॉस्ट ऑफ पर पर्सन बहुत कुछ कंट्रोल होने वाला है। और मैं वास्तव में आज बहुत बहुत बधाई और शुभकामनाएं देना चाहता हूं कि ये डबल इंजन की सरकार ने अगर मिलकर जिस तेजी से काम किया है, कितनी सुविधाएं जनता को मिल रही हैं, कितना आराम होगा। और इसके बाद अगर मैं सेकंड विषय की चर्चा करूं तो चाहे हम एजुकेशन के बारे में सोचें, ये बात तो सब लोग कहते हैं कि भारत के इंजीनियर्स जितने भी बाहर गए उन्होंने टेक्नोलॉजी और ई गवर्नेंस के या डाटा या आईटी में बहुत नाम कमाया। देयर वाज ए टाइम जब एक बार अमेरिका ने कुछ कहा कि हम इंडियंस को अब और पासपोर्ट और वीज़ा हम उनका कर्टेल करेंगे, 1 महीने में उनको वापस लेना पड़ा। लेकिन साथ ही मुझे इस बात की भी खुशी है कि आज टेक्नोलॉजी के कारण मैं अपने गांव के 9,600 बच्चे सरकारी स्कूल के जो हैं उनको एआई और फिनिशिंग स्कूल की ट्रेनिंग दे रहा हूँ। दीज आर ऑल गवर्नमेंट स्कूल ऑफ माई असेंबली 36। 9,600 बच्चे अगर एआई ऑनलाइन सीख रहे हैं तो वो पॉसिबल हुआ इसी ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन के कारण, इसी टेक्नोलॉजी के कारण, इसी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के कारण। ये बात जरूर समय जरूर लगा, लेकिन मैं बड़े विश्वास के साथ आज कह सकता हूँ कि टेक्नोलॉजी में जिस तेजी से युवा भारत आगे बढ़ रहा है, 5वीं इकोनॉमी से 3री इकोनॉमी दुनिया की बनने जा रहा है, और उसमें सबसे बड़ा अगर योगदान का एक अंश होगा तो शायद सबसे बड़ा इस ई गवर्नेंस और टेक्नोलॉजी लर्निंग का होगा। इसलिए यहाँ बैठे हुए हर व्यक्ति का मैं वास्तव में दिल से बहुत बहुत अभिनंदन करता हूँ और स्वागत भी करता हूँ कि आप सबके सहयोग से ये संभव हुआ। लेकिन साथ ही 2 बातें और करना चाहिए। आज पूरे भारत के हम सभी अलग अलग फील्ड में जिसने जिस फील्ड में सबसे अच्छा काम किया, दूसरा राज्य वापस उसका रिपीटेशन ना करे। इसलिए ये कॉन्फ्रेंस इतनी महत्वपूर्ण है कि बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस ऑफ एवरी स्टेट शुड बी शेयर्ड एंड शुड बी अडॉप्टेड एज इट इज। अगेन सेम प्रोसेस के लिए उसका टाइम ना लगे, उसके बारे में हमें बैठकर आज इस बैठक का सबसे सार्थक उपयोग होने में एक ये भी सबसे महत्वपूर्ण विषय है। और मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि हम सभी की एक्सपर्टाइज को यूज करके उनको क्लब कर कर वास्तव में भारत को नंबर 1 बनाने में हर पॉसिबल चीज़ों में बात करेंगे। केवल हेल्थ और एजुकेशन के साथ साथ सामाजिक न्याय, फूड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का जो हमारा सबसे बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट, क्योंकि अगर मैं आज बात करूं कि कोरोना के टाइम पे इतने कम समय पे देश के 80 करोड़ लोगों तक अगर अनाज प्रॉपरली विद ए प्रॉपर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सिस्टम विद 100% जेन्युइन एंड यूजर तक पहुंचने में और उसका सर्टिफिकेशन में अगर कहीं काम आया तो यही टेक्नोलॉजी, ई गवर्नेंस और इन सब के माध्यम से हम कर पाए। हम एग्रीकल्चर में बहुत तेज़ी से इस विषय के कारण आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। मैं ज़्यादा लंबी बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ। सोशल सर्विसेज में भी इन सब चीज़ों में हम सब ने मिलकर एक बड़ा रिकॉर्ड कायम किया है, और ये सब रिकॉर्ड धीरे धीरे डबल इंजन की सरकार के साथ साथ पूरी दुनिया में विश्व गुरु बनाने के लिए भारत को आप सबका योगदान वास्तव में बहुत महत्वपूर्ण रहेगा। और इस स्पीड और कंटिन्यूटी और पूरी शक्ति के साथ इसकी अगली कार्रवाई के लिए हम सब अपना पूरा एफर्ट लगाते हुए एक नया रिकॉर्ड बनाएंगे, ऐसा मुझे पूरा विश्वास है। और 2 दिन की इस पूरी चर्चा के बाद कल शाम को वापस हम जब इसकी कंक्लूजन देखेंगे तो मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि एक नया रिकॉर्ड बनाते हुए कई नई चीज़ें, कई एक दूसरे राज्यों की बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस को हम एक दूसरे से अडॉप्ट करके उसका समय बचाते हुए तेजी से पूरे राष्ट्र को आगे ले जाने में हम इस ई गवर्नेंस के सिस्टम का बहुत फायदा लेंगे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत आभार।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय श्री ओम प्रकाश सकलेचा जी आपके ओजस्वी वचनों के लिए। और कार्यक्रम में आभार के लिए मैं निवेदन करना चाहूँगी श्री NBS राजपूत, सेक्रेटरी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन रिफॉर्म्स एंड पब्लिक ग्रीवेंसेस से, कि वे आभार प्रस्तुति करें।
मंचासीन माननीय मंत्री श्री ओम प्रकाश सकलेचा जी, माननीय श्री शंकर लालवानी जी, सांसद इंदौर, माननीय श्री शैतान सिंह पाल जी, चेयरमैन MP SCDC, भारत सरकार के सचिव आदरणीय श्री अलकेश शर्मा जी, मध्य प्रदेश सरकार से प्रमुख सचिव साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी श्री नीरज मंडलोई जी, मेरे साथी अभिजीत जी, मैं भारत सरकार के प्रशासनिक सुधार और लोक शिकायत विभाग की ओर से आप सबका धन्यवाद करता हूं। आपने अपने विचार रखे, अपना बहुमूल्य समय दिया। माननीय मंत्री जी, अभी 2 विषयों की चर्चा यहाँ से हो रही थी इंदौर के विषय में। एक तो स्वच्छता, दूसरा शुद्ध हवा के बारे में। 2 और उपलब्धियाँ मध्य प्रदेश की है जिसके बारे में मैं यहाँ बोलना चाह रहा था। प्रथम कि मध्य प्रदेश सबसे अधिक ई सेवाएं, ई सर्विसेज देने में पूरे देश में अव्वल है। लगभग 1000 सेवाएं मध्य प्रदेश दे रहा है। दूसरी उपलब्धि जिसके बारे में अभी माननीय मंत्री जी ने विमोचन किया, चूँकि आप प्रभारी मंत्री जी भी हैं छतरपुर के, तो ये गौरव मध्य प्रदेश को मिला है कि पहली बार ब्लॉक गुड गवर्नेंस इंडेक्स, ब्लॉक लेवल पर इंडेक्स हम लोग लॉन्च कर रहे हैं, जो पूरे देश में मॉडल बनेगा, पूरे देश में लागू किया जाएगा। चूँकि भारत सरकार 2 गुड गवर्नेंस इंडेक्स लॉन्च कर चुकी है 2019 और 2021 में। तीसरा गुड गवर्नेंस इंडेक्स इस वर्ष आएगा। डिस्ट्रिक्ट गुड गवर्नेंस इंडेक्स हम लोग UT JNK, अरुणाचल प्रदेश, गुजरात राज्य के लिए हम लोग लॉन्च कर चुके हैं। पहली बार ब्लॉक स्तर पर जाके हम लोग ये इंडेक्स लॉन्च कर रहे हैं। और इसकी एक खासियत है, यहाँ जो 10 सेक्टर इस ब्लॉक लेवल गुड गवर्नेंस इंडेक्स में लिए गए हैं, उन 10 सेक्टर्स में 63 इंडिकेटर हैं। और खासकर 2 इंडिकेटर के बारे में मैं यहाँ कहना चाहूँगा। पहला इंडिकेटर है जिसमें सिटीजन फीडबैक लिया गया है। नॉर्मली हमने जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट गुड गवर्नेंस इंडेक्स बनाया और GGI बनाया, उसमें हम सिटीजन का फीडबैक नहीं लेते हैं, लेकिन इसमें 2 स्तर पर फीडबैक लेने की व्यवस्था की गई है, जिसमें पहला सिटीजन फीडबैक है और दूसरा जो पंचायत के जनप्रतिनिधि हैं उनका फीडबैक भी लिया गया है। इस तरह ये 63 इंडिकेटर यहाँ लिए गए हैं BGGI में। मैं धन्यवाद करता हूँ कि आज ये अवसर मध्य प्रदेश को मिला और पहली बार DRPG और मध्य प्रदेश सरकार के सहयोग से ज्वाइंटली ये हम लॉन्च कर पाए। मैं धन्यवाद करता हूँ, चूँकि हमारे सचिव महोदय आज यहाँ नहीं आ पाए उनके स्वास्थ्य कारणों से, उनका आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। बहुत मेहनत से हमने ये सम्मेलन यहाँ आयोजित करने का प्रयास किया। अलकेश शर्मा जी का धन्यवाद करता हूँ, नीरज कुमार मंडलोई जी का धन्यवाद करता हूँ। सभी जो प्रतिनिधि यहाँ पूरे देश से आए हैं, डिग्निटरी जो यहाँ देश से आए हैं, जो अवार्डीज यहाँ आए हैं, सभी का धन्यवाद करता हूँ। मैं मीडिया और NIC, हमारी DISP टीम, सभी का धन्यवाद करता हूँ। जिला प्रशासन इंदौर, कमिश्नर इंदौर, सभी का धन्यवाद करता हूँ। आपने सहयोग किया और हम ये इतनी अच्छी खूबसूरत वर्कशॉप यहाँ आयोजित कर पा रहे हैं। निश्चित 2 दिन में हम लोग जो विचारों का आदान प्रदान करेंगे उससे पूरा देश लाभान्वित होगा। धन्यवाद, नमस्कार।
थैंक यू सो मच। And after this inaugural ceremony, we are breaking the session for 15 minutes. You all can visit exhibition and gather back at around 12:30 so that we can start with another sessions. Thank you so much.
India, we had request you. We are about to proceed with our next session. We request you all to kindly join us here in the Grand Hall. And all the concerned IOCs are requested to join the team nearby the stage. Thank you. हमारे बीच उपस्थित सभी अतिथि गणों से हमारा निवेदन है कि आप सभी मंच के पास ग्रैंड हॉल में हमें ज्वाइन करें। हम हमारे आगे का कार्यक्रम शुरू करने जा रहे हैं और साथ ही में प्लेनरी सेशन से जुड़े कंसर्न सभी आईओसी से रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप मंच के पास आकर टीम के साथ एक बार कोऑर्डिनेट कर लीजिए। थैंक यू। First will be a common talk on digital public infrastructure, and then we have 6 panel discussions. 3 panel discussions are to be organized in the Grand Hall, and the other 3 would be organized in the Orient Hall, which is outside to my right, and then left. The sessions which would be organizing in the Grand Hall are digital transformation for India's Techade, emerging technologies for providing citizen-centric services, and district-level initiative in e-governance. Orient Hall, we have panel discussions on cybersecurity and good governance, data governance initiatives in innovation and research, digital transformation for enhancing ease of living. I know we all have been questioning for a lot of choices. Now we have some, but then we have to make tough ones. So I'd request all the guests, all the delegates, those who have joined us around India, across India, to please join us in the Grand Hall. We are about to begin our next session, wherein we are going to have detailed discussions on topics that concerns all of us. We'll be starting with a common discussion on digital public infrastructure. I'd request all the guests and delegates to please join us in the Grand Hall. Thank you. हमारे बीच उपस्थित सभी अतिथियों को मैं बताना चाहूँगी कि आने वाला जो सेशन है वो 2 पार्ट्स में होगा। द फर्स्ट पार्ट इज़ अ कॉमन टॉक, जिसमें हम डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के बारे में डिटेल्ड बात करेंगे, and we'll be joined by the pioneers in the respective streams. और उसके आगे के जो प्लेनरी सेशंस हैं टोटल 6 होने वाले हैं, जिनमें से 3 इस ग्रैंड हॉल में होंगे और बाकी के 3 जो है ओरियन हॉल में होंगे। जो 3 सेशंस यहाँ होने हैं उनके नाम हैं डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन फॉर इंडियाज टेकेड, इमर्जिंग टेक्नोलॉजीज फॉर प्रोवाइडिंग सिटीजन सेंट्रिक सर्विसेज, डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल इनिशिएटिव इन ई गवर्नेंस। ओरियन हॉल में होने वाले सेशंस के सब्जेक्ट्स हैं साइबर सिक्योरिटी एंड गुड गवर्नेंस, डेटा गवर्नेंस, इनिशिएटिव्स इन इनोवेशन एंड रिसर्च, डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन फॉर एनहांसिंग ease of living. I'd request everybody to please join us in the Grand Hall first, and then we'll give you a little bit of time so that you can shift as the topic interests you, whether in the Grand Hall or in the Orient Hall. Thank you. We would once again like to request all the guests and delegates to kindly join us in the Grand Hall, because we are about to begin with our sessions. Here are going to be systematic, orderly, detailed discussions on topic of our common concerns. We are going to start with a talk which is going to be common for all of us. The topic is digital public infrastructure, followed by 6 plenary sessions. 3 sessions would be organized in the Grand Hall and 3 would be conducted in the Orient Hall. I'll repeat the topics. Grand Hall, we'll have digital transformation for India's Techade, emerging technologies for providing citizen-centric services, district level initiative in e-governance. And for Orient Hall, we have cybersecurity and good governance, data governance initiatives in innovation and research, digital transformation for enhancing ease of life. हमारे बीच उपस्थित सभी अतिथि गणों से हमारा निवेदन है कि आप सभी हमें हमारे ग्रैंड हॉल में ज्वाइन करें. हम हमारा आगे का कार्यक्रम शुरू करने जा रहे हैं. We are being joined by the pioneers in the respective industries, those who would be starting their talks. पहला जो टॉपिक है हमारा वो है डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, which I'm sure आप सब लोग बहुत ही excited होंगे. Must be waiting to have your own takeaways. उसके आगे हमारे 6 सेशंस प्लान्ड हैं. 3 सेशंस यहाँ ग्रैंड हॉल में होंगे और 3 सेशंस ओरियन हॉल में. ग्रैंड हॉल के सब्जेक्ट्स आर digital transformation for India's Techade, emerging technologies for providing citizen-centric services, district level initiative in e-governance. Orient Hall के subjects are cybersecurity and good governance, data governance initiatives in innovation and research, digital transformation for enhancing ease of living. We had request all our guests and our delegates to please join us in the hall. Thank you. So this is to announce and request. Ajay Nagpal ji का bag जो है वो misplace हो गया है. The bags which have just received from the team itself, brown color का bag. तो बात ऐसी है कि we all have similar bags, but then he has his identity card inside the bag, which is important for us. तो आप लोग एक बार अपने बैग्स चेक कर लीजिएगा. अगर बाय चांस अजय नागपाल जी की आई कार्ड है उसमें तो आप प्लीज़ वो सर तक पहुंचा दीजिएगा, which is to my right near the stage. Thank you. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 26th National E-Governance Conference in the cleanest and smart cities of Indore in the heartland state of Madhya Pradesh. I am Megha Athotra, and as the day takes its shape into the detailed discussions on the topics that we'd like to listen to, I would be taking this stride and would be walking along, helping you to welcome on stage the speakers. So I'm your master of ceremony. And we all have been briefed what are we going to do. So let's start with our first session. Public infrastructure has been a cornerstone of human progress, and digital public infrastructure with more open and democratic principles built in it has made it imperative even so more. India, through India Stack, became the first country to develop all three foundational DPIs. First, mediating the flow of people through a digital ID system, Aadhaar. Second, by mediating the flow of money through a real-time fast payment system, UPI. And third, the flow of personal information through a consent-based data sharing system, account aggregator built on the Data Empowerment Protection Architecture, that is DEPA. DigiYatra, DigiLocker, also being on the list of ecosystem, has contributed in enabling e-governance. And to take us to the strides of digital public infrastructure, we are being joined by our esteemed speaker, who as the first Director General of the Unique Identification Authority of India has helped create the 12-digit identity number available to all eligible residents in India called the Aadhaar. He has authored a book titled The Making of Aadhaar, World's Largest Identity Platform, ex-chairman of Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, TRAI. Throughout his administrative career, he has held several key positions as Chief Secretary, Government of Jharkhand, Principal Secretary, Public Health and Engineering, Government of Jharkhand. He has awarded the Prime Minister's Award for Excellence in Public Administration for his impeccable service record and outstanding contributions. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming ex-CEO, National Health Authority, Shri Ram Sevak Sharma ji on stage.
Well, good afternoon, friends. And first of all, I'd like to thank the DARPG Secretary and also the IT Secretary for inviting me to this conference. It's always a pleasure and privilege to be here in Madhya Pradesh. I have been coming here even as Secretary IT, as DG of UIDAI, and also as the CEO of National Health Authority. And I'm really impressed by the agileness and by the kind of e-governance and digital applications which Madhya Pradesh has been putting on. And there's no doubt in saying that MP is one of the forward states, one of the states which is ahead on the curve of application of digital technologies in delivery of public service. What I'm going to talk about today is nothing really new. New in the sense that you have all heard these terms, Aadhaar, UPI, also CoWIN, and Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission lately. What I am going to talk about is basically how they are different than the typical applications of e-governance which are developed. They are not merely applications, these are the digital public infrastructure, and how they weave into leapfrogging India into the digital space is what I'm going to talk about. So let me begin with the, driving innovation and inclusion at scale, because I believe that for India, inclusion and scale, these two are extremely important terms. And therefore, how do you use appropriate technology tools to drive inclusion and scale at real scale? Now, obviously, this is a slide which I don't need to explain much. India is an extremely diverse country, and therefore, whatever we make has to satisfy that diversity. We have 1.4 billion people, we have 22 official languages, we have large number of dialects, we have social, cultural, religious, ethnic, educational diversities. You have PhDs and you also have illiterates in this country even now. So I think that is the kind of diversity which we are dealing with. And also the fact that now we have 1.15 billion mobile connections. That's another very interesting aspect of our country. And we have 800 million internet users. Just to add to this statistics, we have 650 million smartphones. And we have large number of applications riding on these smartphones. Now, many of you who may be district magistrates and who are district magistrate now, may be wondering what was happening earlier. And I can relate to that. India has been using digital technologies since last about 30 to 40 years. In the early 80s, when we were district magistrate, my friend Satyanarayan and many other people are sitting here, we were district magistrates, then we were doing all small type of applications. So disconnected applications, we had no internet. We had no graphical user interface, it was all MS-DOS and other kind. Even before that, it used to be something called CPM, Control Program Monitor. And we were actually writing softwares on that. So essentially, internal computerizations and individual initiatives. We were computerizing treasuries, public grievances, NREGP schemes, many other schemes, computerizing the teachers' postings and stuff like that. Minor applications with few databases. And of course, Lokwani, for example, Alok, maybe I don't know whether he's participating or not, we had those small district applications. Many of these applications became quite popular. And then the state governments realized, why can't we use these applications replicate them at different districts? So thereafter, what happens in the 90s, the state showed the leadership. And even the national government also came up with a program called NEGP, National E-Governance Plan. We had statewide area network. We had the mission mode projects. We have the state data centers. We have the common service centers. You may all have heard. In fact, common service centers are even today in existence. And in 2009, the first break, in a sense, took place, where from the earlier projects which were largely state specific. That's what happened. Then of course in 2016 December, the Unified Payment Interface was launched. BHIM was launched in 16 December 2016, if I remember. Then in 2020, when COVID happened, and after that, a number of things happened very, very quickly. So we had COVID, India could not have had the vaccination program at that scale with complete portability, diversity. I'll of Madhya Pradesh. And then he said, Sharma ji, we need your help. And I said, sir, what help can I provide? He said, we need e-rupee. We want to distribute cycles. We don't want to purchase cycles centrally. We don't want to give the money for the cycle to the parents because they may not buy a cycle. But if we can give e-rupee where this can be redeemed only if you buy a cycle, that will be very useful. And therefore, I am told Madhya Pradesh has implemented e-rupee in a big manner in many other schemes, and Karnataka has done it, others have done it. Ayushman Bharat happened, Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission happened. ONDC has happened recently, about 1.5 years back, Open Network for Digital Commerce. So, number of things based on the basic principle of interoperability, scalability, open standards, open APIs. I'll talk about that later. This has happened, and therefore India is truly leapfrogging in the digital space. Now look at this figure. In 2009, only 17% of Indians had a bank account. Only 17%. And when we were district magistrates back in 1980s, bankers were not opening the bank account of the IRDP beneficiaries, because they thought that if I open a bank account, spend 100 rupees in opening a bank account, and if the fellow will just, the money will come, subsidy money will come, the money will come, and then he will take out the money, nothing will be left. So I will be a loser. So it was not viable for the banks to open the bank account. Today we have 82% of Indians having bank account, 82%. Similarly, we were transferring about $50 billion worth of subsidies on LPG, on PDS, on many other programs of the government, and it was resulting into huge amount of duplicates, ghost, kind of leakages. And the Honorable Minister mentioned that out of 1 rupee, only 16 or 17 paisa was reaching to the beneficiaries. So these two figures you must remember. Today, what has happened? If that was the 17% to now 82%, it should have taken 46 years to reach that figure. And how I am making that estimate is that essentially there is a direct correlation between the per capita income and the financial inclusion. And it requires per capita income of $25,000 to reach 82%. Even the Nordic countries, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, etc., these also have similar kind of bank financial inclusion, which could have taken 46 years. However, this job was done in just about 9 years to achieve that job. So this is actually true transformation which has happened. It is not just technology for the sake of technology. This technology has really been delivering huge amount of benefits and services. Now, what is digital public infrastructure? It's nothing new, honestly. I mean, it's not as if we invented DPI. DPI has been in existence for a long time. In telecom, for example, we have been using GSM. And we have SMS, of course, every one of us is familiar. then these two common protocols, GSM and SMS, they provide intercommunication between the various kinds of mobile operators. So it has been there for a long time, and that has ensured these are the standards and protocols. They are not technologies per se, and they are basically driven by ecosystem unlocking value. Then of course, internet. I mean, who owns the internet? Nobody. Imagine an infrastructure which is not owned by anybody. Still 6 billion plus machines, computers, laptops, iPads, mobile phones are connected using this wonderful, network. Now, why that is possible? Because it is all driven by, DPIs. It is driven by common protocols. And these common protocols are, HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTML, SMTP. These are protocols. So what you do, you don't have to link peer to peer. What you do, if your machine is satisfying these protocols, you are all a part of that network. That makes it very, very simple. Entry becomes very, very easy into the system. And that is what actually India's digital public infrastructure, which we have built over the last 13, 14 years, this is how it is functioning. So just to loosely define DPIs, and why I'm giving this lecture essentially is that all of you are administrators, and all of you are going to work in the field, also work in the secretariat and many other policy making bodies. What is important for us is to understand that making a standalone software end to end is not really the right way to do things now. Now what we need to do is essentially work along with the DPIs which have been built and build your solutions just plugging into that DPI. That's the broad idea. So actually DPI is a set of technology building blocks. It's not a solution, it's like a building block, it's like a Lego block. Powered by interoperable open standards and specifications. Basically it has to be open and interoperable. Operated under a set of enabling rules, and what for? To drive innovation, inclusion and competition. Please understand, it is not anti-competitive. You should not say that Aadhaar is built by Government of India and therefore it's a single source stuff, it does not drive competition. It does, because essentially it is only one artifact which has been built, but around that artifact you are building large number of applications and products, and that is where the open architecture comes into play. And the governance is also necessary. It must have an open, transparent and participatory governance. Now there are three broad ideas. One is this DPI has to have market. It should not constrict the innovation. It should not constrict the market. The market should function vibrantly. It must have governance, which means legal principles and frameworks. And it has open technology standards. Mr. Satyanarayana is sitting here. He was the one who basically built the digital health blueprint, which essentially said these are the guiding principles of technology which we must make. Now, these on the left is one approach whereby you make an application. The government makes applications, and government only makes applications. And what is the problem of these applications? The problem is that we can make a good application, but we never update that application because we are not bothered about the market, acceptability, user friendliness. And you will find, and let's be frank about it, many of our applications which we make really are very, very shabby, and they're not very user friendly. They're not very sleek, right? Sometimes even the websites are not updated. Your secretary has changed, but wo website dikha rahi hai purane wale koi. This happens because maintainability, sustainability of these things becomes an issue. So that's not a right approach, because government application made by department and ministries, and it is all RFP vendor based, so you hire a vendor and vendor has no incentive to really give a good product. So this is how, that's not a good approach. Similarly, when you have all private, government sort of say, hamara kaam nahi hai, when we leave, government is not good at developing applications and systems. So we leave this to private sector. What happens? The private sector builds their own particular, proprietary kind of applications and APIs. And they essentially just, do it for themselves. And that develops monopolies. Today there's only one Facebook, there's only one Twitter, there's only one Amazon, All these digital monopolies develop and then they start misbehaving. So this is not, again, a right approach. What is right is essentially you basically have open DPG community, digital public goods, and you basically create interoperable APIs and diverse application and market and user applications, you leave it to the market. That's what, basically you create a framework, you create protocols, and thereafter leave everything else for the private sector to develop. And that is the best approach, the most, intelligent approach for the governments to take. And that is what we have done in our country. So attempt to centralize every function or building a citizen-centric solution doesn't work. And basically DPI approach does less. Why? Because if 20 people are building end-to-end application, they are building all the components. But if I can build the most commonly used components, then everybody else can just build the rest of it, right? That's the right approach. So therefore, basically DPI must be like highest common factor. It means it should solve the most common problem. How is Aadhaar is a DPI. Aadhaar basically solves the highest common factor of identity determination. X is X. Every domain where you go, the first question they ask, who are you? And that if who are you question is solved, then you have solved the question of all the domains which actually require that thing. And therefore you don't have to prove every time who are you, and every time that domain does not have to make that application. This application can be just plugged, Aadhaar can be plugged into that application. That's how it should work. So let me discuss Aadhaar briefly. I'll touch upon, because as I said, there's nothing new which I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about, and basically I'm going to connect the dots, how Aadhaar fits into the overall DPI story of the country, how other things fit. That's what I'm going to talk about. So essentially we have 1.36 billion IDs, we have 860 million bank accounts linked to Aadhaar, we have 90 billion authentications, 90 billion, now the figure is 91 billion. So imagine 1.3 billion people have done 91 billion authentication. That means on an average, every Indian has done about 80 authentication. And of course, many people, many of my friends kind of abuse me, saying that you are the guy who had actually put that attendance system. Many of you may be using that biometric attendance system, Aadhaar enabled by AEBS as it is called. This authentication is a wonderful tool. And of course, we have done electronic KYC transactions. Today, why today bankers are opening bank account? Because it doesn't cost them anything to open a bank account now. Electronic KYC is a paperless, way of opening a bank account. And therefore, if a poor person opens a bank account, then, 2 rupees ka kharcha hua. Even if the fellow deposits 100 rupees, even that is viable now. So imagine India is a country of low value, high volume. And that actually makes things viable. If you can reduce the cost of transaction, then many bottom of the pyramid is also included into the whole system. So that's the idea. Janadhan Yojana, we opened 482 million accounts in as many days. We have seeded 800 million accounts with Aadhaar. And we have paperless Aadhaar electronic KYC. Also, when Jio came, these people opened they created 100 million customers in 100 days. How? Because they were using electronic KYC of Aadhaar. So immediately, without any cost, they were actually getting. Otherwise, getting a mobile SIM costs you at least 50 rupees because you have to have a paper, proof of identity, proof of residence. then you photocopy that paper, you keep that paper in the air-conditioned rooms because you have to maintain those, what is called customer acquisition form or the KYC forms. Now everything is digital. So therefore the cost comes down. And now what has happened is India's tele density has become 37% to 93% in 8 years. You know, and the interesting part is India's per capita data consumption is 20 gigabytes. This is the highest in the world. India's mobile networks transport more data than the mobile networks of US and China put together. You might not believe it, but that's a fact. Indians are getting data. What is the data rate? 7 rupees per gigabyte. 7 rupees, 10 cents. US. In USA, the data rate is $12.35 per gigabyte. And this is a fact which you can check on your Google and internet. That's what is happening. Today, even a poor man working in Delhi from Bihar, every day is talking to his family members on a video call. We are all making video calls now. Why? If the data was, you know, initially when the mobile phones came, the data was 8 rupees 40 paisa per minute. And even the guy who was receiving the call was also paying that much. So therefore we had a mixed call economy, you know, missed call. I give you one missed call, which means that, you know, aaj ki hamari meeting rahegi. 2 missed calls means nothing. People were doing trading on these missed call business. Ki yaar falana share hai, kharid lo usko, bech do. So we had a whole missed call economy. Today, if that price was there, nobody would be making a call. Now, everybody is making a call because it doesn't cost. So this is what has happened. The prices have come down, the inclusion has happened, and that actually, you see in 2014, the Honorable Prime Minister launched Digital India program. And there were 3 areas. Area 1, digital infrastructure as a utility to citizens, which means digital infrastructure means connectivity, identity, and many other infrastructure, UPI also. Second, software and services on demand. Third, citizens empowerment, which is one of the themes of this conference, you know, Viksit Bharat, empowering citizens. These are 3 themes, and this is one of them. So without connectivity, you will not have these applications flourishing. And of course, there have been many attempts. You know, you remember, I don't know whether many of you may remember, the free basics announced by Amazon. Do you remember? No? Not Amazon, Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg. He was saying that, you know, I will give digital freedom to Indians. If the Indians watch certain websites, then I will give them free. And we did not allow that to happen in our country. Of course, it was very counterintuitive. People were saying, "Arey bhai Sharma ji, aapko kya problem hai? Free mein de raha hai, to aapko kya samasya hai?" But we said, "Nahi, wo free mein de raha hai, but they are dividing the internet. They are cannibalizing the internet. They are basically creating walled gardens on the internet." And for a country like ours, which is going from offline to online, we need to ensure that internet remains a permissionless, free, open platform. And that is why we did not allow free basics to happen in this country. So we have ensured internet remains a free and permissionless platform. Then our payment bridge, we have transferred $322 billion in direct benefit transfer because Aadhaar becomes a financial address. I don't have to know what is your, you know, bank account, what is your bank. Even bank also doesn't have to be known. I just know this is Aadhaar number 1234, transfer 100 rupees to him. And that money comes directly to your bank account, wherever your bank account is. We have covered 860 million people, and we have saved $27 billion. And every figure which I am quoting, by the way, we have provided the figure, the source. So it's not some kind of, ऐसे ही दिमाग से नहीं मार रहे हैं, मतलब this is an authentic figure. This is actually the engine which I would like everybody to understand how DBT happens. So you basically give any benefit program, for example, Ladli, Behan Ladli program. You say, these are the Aadhaar numbers and these are the amounts. Just 2-column Excel file you give to your bank. Essentially, this goes to NPCI. NPCI के पास एक table है. That table has got only 2 columns, Aadhaar number and bank ID, the name of the bank. Doesn't have the bank account. So essentially the whole thing is split, that file is split bank-wise. And then NPCI just transmits that file. It comes to bank. Now bank knows that this Aadhaar number has got this bank account. So essentially in 2 stages, it is actually deciphered and it goes there. So the original program does not have to know even the bank name, the bank account number, it has to know Aadhaar as a financial address. So this has happened. India is the only country which transmitted so much of money, millions of farmers during COVID times. We transferred billions of rupees to them. Imagine during COVID, we transferred 5.4 billion and we transferred to construction workers, farmers, women, every money was transferred. It could not have happened but for this digital identity. Now let me talk about the UPI. Now UPI we have, sorry, this is a payment part. We have transferred 322 billion. Then of course, 394 million Aadhaar-based transactions, 8.9 billion UPI transactions. In fact, it's more than 9 billion now. 9 billion transactions. Each day, 30 crore transactions are taking place on UPI and all free. If I transfer 1 rupee to somebody, only 1 rupee goes. 99 paisa does not go. And if 99 paisa was going, we in India are extremely sensitive. You will, ek paisa mein kyon dunga kisi ko? So this is happening, and actually it doesn't take much cost. There's no cost because the infrastructure, the mobile phone belongs to a person, the data belongs to that person. The banks are only making some entry, one entry, single entry, one credit entry, one debit entry, that's about all, and it doesn't cost anything. So it's not as if somebody is sacrificing his profit. It is basically because the cost has come down because of digital, that's why it doesn't cost. UPI, as you know, these are the figures again, it's a quoted figure, 5.5 billion transactions. It is dated, by the way, this is not a current figure. China has done 15.7 billion and others are much lower. So this is the UPI story. Now we were discussing somebody, there's a very beautiful project going on now between IIT Madras and IIT Bombay. It's called Bhashini. Now this Bhashini project is very interesting. I speak in Hindi. The text-to-speech, speech-to-text software writes it in Hindi. The translation software converts it into English. The English part covers the database. And then results come in English, again translated to Hindi, is text, and text is synthesized into a speech. So if I say, क्या मैं आयुष्मान भारत का हकदार हूँ, immediately the whole thing will come और वो कहेगा कि भाई आपका आधार नंबर बताइए या कुछ जो भी पूछेगा. Now this requires that I can talk in any language and the response can come in any language. So now there will be no need to do various kinds of linguistic translations. It can happen over time. It can happen real time. Now that's actually going to transform the service delivery, and it's going to become a very, very major, sort of technology which will enable, inclusion at a large scale. Even you can speak you can train your AI engine to speak into your local language, Bhojpuri or whatever other language, and it will still can come back to you in the same language. So this is something which is going to happen. And NPCI is going to launch that based on Bhashini sometime this year itself. You can say, Ram Sevak Sharma ko 100 rupiya transfer kar dijiye mere account se. That's all. And it will transfer. Now, this is another very interesting application of technology, which is basically, we are data-driven innovation. We are having data credentialing. In COVID, you must have seen the certificate and the QR coded certificate. People don't understand that this certificate is actually, the QR code is a, sort of encrypted QR code. It's not an ordinary QR code. You can verify to the source, and that QR code is now accepted in 122 countries on the world. So this data credentialing is very important. So whatever I do, there's a certificate which is issued, real-time certificate issued, and then, I can show and prove that I am, so-and-so. Not only I am so-and-so, I have, done this work. So that is, of course, network participants are happening. Now, this is again the application of the AA account aggregator. So what is happening? In India, big states can get money at very lucrative interest rates, right? But a poor person, if he wants 5,000 rupees loan, उसको 20 बार चक्कर लगाया जाएगा. नहीं, ये लेके आओ, वो लेके आओ. How can we solve that problem? How can technology solve that problem? This is actually one solution, whereby whatever, mutual fund, hospitals, health insurance, tax, there are the information providers. And on the other side, there are information users. So suppose you go to a bank and want to get a, loan from some bank, and you can say that I have been banking with A, B, C, D. Those banks, the digital, your consent will actually enable those banks to transfer your information to the bank which is actually wanting your data. That's the account aggregator part. And this can be used in multiple areas, not only credit, also in health, in many other, agriculture, whatever. So this is, and by the way, this person who is the consent manager in some sense, or a fiduciary, he or she does not happen to see the data because it's all encrypted. It's encrypted with the health information provider's private key, which can be opened by the public key of this fellow. So there's a PKI infrastructure involved. So no data leakage. Data security is security by design. So what we have done is, our public infrastructure is a set of reusable. We built, Lego blocks, as I said. They don't provide a solution per se, complete solution, but you can build solutions on top of this. So identity blocks, you have Aadhaar, authentication, eKYC, e-sign, digital signature without, dongle. So essentially, when you file your income tax return and then you put your PAN is linked to your Aadhaar is linked to your mobile you get an OTP, and you plug in that OTP, which basically digitally signs your income tax return. And now you don't have to print it and, sign it and send it to Bangalore, nothing. That's the power of, e-sign. Digital locker is actually one of the artifacts which Digital India created, whereby we said every private citizen will have a space on a public cloud. Every citizen of this country will have some space on the public cloud, and digital locker is that. So essentially it is again linked to Aadhaar, and you can restore your documents. Nowadays there are 6 billion documents on digital locker, 6 billion. Data blocks, account aggregator, consent artifact. India is the only country which has got consent artifact, where I can have a digital token given and authorize somebody to fetch my data, get my data, whatever. Digital locker. And of course, now we have open commerce, open health, and drones. So these are all, accelerating a number of applications. They are combinatorial powers, as they say. If there are n objects and in how many ways they can be arranged, and whatever, NCR or whatever, that's the mathematics. Many of you may remember the formula. So essentially what is happening, Aadhaar KYC plus UPI plus data aggregator plus e-sign, this all together allows even the micro loans to be given in an algorithmic way, which means a person who is selling, let's say, pakoda on a thela, he or she can get loan 2,000 rupees to purchase his ingredients and then return back the loan. It's all digital. She can pay the persons with the digital part. So she doesn't get the money, but she gets the authorization, she gets in her wallet, and then she can pay the money. So this is possible, this is going to happen. It has already started happening, and we can get loan of as low as $2 in 5 to 10 minutes. CoWIN is something which you are all familiar with. It enables, vaccinating 1.3 billion people is not a trivial task. And imagine a situation when there was no CoWIN. Can you imagine? every Netaji would have, I mean, I don't want to criticize Netajis, but every, public politician would have said, हम लोगों ने इतना लगा दिया, अब पता लगा सबको जोड़ने के बाद हिंदुस्तान की population का double लग गया. Because, if there's no accounting, then, it's very simple, easy. So, having a situation where I can have my first dose in Bhopal, second dose in Indore, third dose in Trivandrum, that's what I should have. And then still everything is available, digital certificates are available. This is what is typically really a digital public infrastructure. And that was developed in a very short time. And frugality of scale, evolving landscape, initially we said 60 years plus hum denge. Fir kaha 45 years to 60 years with comorbidities. Then we said 45 to everybody. Then 30 years to 45. So changing landscape. Interoperability and transparency. Everybody was looking at the same site, which is the next nearest hospital where I can get a dose. So you were getting, whether Covaxin, and then the system remembered that your first dose was Covaxin and therefore your second one will also be Covaxin. So these were some of the principles. In fact, the basic principles which we adopted was equitable and inclusive. Everybody, even the VIP was looking at the same, platform. And single source of truth. Then of course, physical and digital, it is not necessary that everybody gets registered digitally only. It can be just, he can go and, walk in and still have himself vaccinated and his record will become digital. And feedback, tracks vaccination schedule. So essentially this you have all seen, live vaccination centers, number of citizens registered, doses administered. AEFI, after adverse effect of vaccination, that also came. Distribution of states and districts, you can see age, gender, split by vaccine brands, etc. So everything is available on a real-time dashboard. And that actually made the entire exercise absolutely transparent. Today we know how many persons have done only one dose, how many persons have done 2, how many persons have done 3, and also the adverse effects, whether Covaxin or other Covishield, whatever, what are the adverse effects of these vaccines, that's also known. So this is something which then of course the last digital public infrastructure, last but one rather, this is ABDM. ABDM was launched in September of 2021, which is just about 2 years now. So essentially again the same principle was adopted. We built a framework and then we said, solutions aap banaiye. You build the solutions around this framework. So this is a protocol and you just use that protocol to build solutions. So it basically connects health applications, government health programs, ASHA, A&M, laboratories, practitioners, private hospitals, government hospitals, they all get connected to this central kind of infra, which is again lean and thin. You don't keep the records. We don't keep the health records of the people in COVID, in ABDM. So essentially, what are the core building blocks? Aadhaar number. Why Aadhaar number? Because you need to have a common identifier. Anybody must have some number. It could be Aadhaar number also, but we did not want it to be Aadhaar number for different reasons, because Aadhaar one can have, one cannot have. Somebody who has Aadhaar need not want to have an Aadhaar number, etc. So we have the Aadhaar number. We have a registry of healthcare professionals so that we know who are the quacks and who are not the quacks. The quacks are not there on that registry. Health facility registry, health information exchange and consent manager, that is another artifact. We have a number of Aadhaar applications. We have a number of digital solutions. UHI, Unified Health Interface, on the Tarj of UPI. We have 44 crore Aadhaar numbers. We have 2 lakh facilities. You have a dashboard.abdm.gov.in on which you can check the real-time status of how many Aadhaar numbers, how many records have been linked, and what is the other part. So health record links, scan and share token generated, successful integrators. This is how the whole thing opens. Similar to that account aggregator, you remember? This is on the other side is you have the health information providers. So you have public health programs, doctors, diagnostic centers, health lockers. And on the other side, you have the users of that information. And this is the consent manager in between. And you have drug registry, healthcare professional registry, so you have registries. Now, registries is again public infrastructure. Otherwise, everybody will make his own registry. You know, even the KYC cost of finding out whether somebody is a real doctor or not for a private person is much. You know, it's about 100 rupees minimum. Now, it reduces the cost of application developers. It reduces their span of application development. They don't have to do end-to-end development. Somebody can just, create personal health record application, and it can fetch the information from this entire architecture. This is the technology block, so I don't need to go into this, but essentially understand that India's digital public goods are playing an extremely important role. If Aadhaar was not there, if UPI was not there, ABDM would not have happened. So what has been done? There are certain foundational horizontal public infrastructures. Horizontal means they can be used in any domain. And then there are certain domain-specific public infrastructures, like registries. These two create the entire, stack, which is the ABDM technology stack. And the top layer is health service provider application, PHR. All these applications are end-user applications. And this is nothing, government has nothing to do with them. Only thing is they must actually connect with this and must satisfy all the protocols. So that is how it has been done. I'm sorry we don't have time to explain all this. Too much to be explained in such a short time. Now, I just want to delve 2 minutes on this. Basically, people don't understand ABDM with a platform ही है, but it's not platform. It's a protocol. Why? And let me explain this. You know, when you have a platform, then the patient has to be on the same platform, the doctor has to be on the same platform. If it is e-Sanjeevani application, and e-Sanjeevani many of you may be familiar with, the doctor also has to have e-Sanjeevani application and the patient also have to have the e-Sanjeevani application. Same thing has happened. So if you have a platform-centric approach, these are vertical silos which are created, which is the left-hand side. So what has happened in America? In USA, there are only two companies called Cerner and Epic. These two companies hold 70% of the patient's data. Monopolies. And they don't want to, sort of share among each other. And obviously government doesn't want them to, because again, it's a free market economy. So therefore, they don't want to interfere. So this is what has happened. Platforms develop monopolies. Now, what we have done is, based on protocols, similar to what internet had done in the beginning, HTTP, HTTPS, we have developed few protocols, open protocols, which essentially anybody just following that protocol, so whether it is patient can be on any application, and doctor can be on any application, and they can communicate. Have you seen that two video consultation applications can interoperate? No? If you are on, let's say, what is a WebEx, I am on WebEx, only then I can talk to you, right? If you are on Zoom, I also have to be on Zoom to talk to you. But what if a Zoom customer can talk to a WebEx customer, even without understanding what is the other guy's protocol? That can happen if Zoom and WebEx both satisfy this protocol. So what has happened is that now, even these applications, Practo, 1MG, there are many video consultation applications, private sector, they have all come onto this platform, and therefore they are interoperable. Today, the Paytm QR code can be read by PhonePe QR code or Google Pay QR code, only because they are all interoperating. Under the video consultation, there is a protocol called WebRTC, which actually enables the communication between different kind of applications. So that's what is happening. So essentially, we have National Health Claims Exchange. We have built in Ayushman Bharat, which will basically facilitate the health claim submissions and, by the insurance companies. We have Unified Health Interface, which I just now explained to you, which basically means you can search, you can book, you can pay, you can avail the services. So you can search for an ambulance, you can search for a laboratory, you can search for a hospital, all in a single application, whatever application you use. So it all interfaces and it makes it possible. So this is actually nothing, it's not random stuff. It is a very well thought out and well designed stuff. And what I have learned during my experiences is architecture is the most important part of any application. Without architecture, you just can't, otherwise you will build some shabby applications which will not scale up, which will not, later on you will have problems. You can develop an application. हमारे मिनिस्टर साहब बोलेंगे कल तक शर्मा जी कर दीजिए, कर तो देंगे लेकिन कुछ होगा नहीं उससे, फिर 4 दिन के बाद वो टूट जाएगा. Okay, this is something which left out. Scan and share. I don't know whether many of you may be aware. This is, you can have your ABA ID, you can just scan QR code and then you can get an OPD slip. This is what is happening today. 80,000 people are using. This also is available on the dashboard.abda.gov.in. ONDC is another wonderful thing which is being built, and believe me, it is again going to transform digital commerce in this country. It is very early, it's very early days, about a year and a half, this is going to happen. This is again based on the same network principles. It's not based on platforms, it is based on network, again protocol based. So basically there are more in digital infrastructure across domains, health, education, urban governance, financial raise, FASTag, e-way bill, Bharat bill payment system, you know that, open networks, POVIN, many things are happening. Now, this probably is the last but one slide. So essentially what has happened is that we have actually created what is called some overarching principle in designing this digital public infrastructure. What are those overarching principles? One is frugal. It's very important that whatever we built in this country has got to be very, very cost effective. And just to give you one example, Aadhaar, cost of one Aadhaar, starting from data capture to Aadhaar generation to mailing the Aadhaar letter, is less than 100 rupees. Cost of, UK started an identity program called UK's ID card. Their cost was 135 British pounds per ID card. It is 135 British pounds versus 1 British pound. This is frugal. Frugality has to be one of the most important considerations for any DPI. And it should be frugal even for citizens. Not only frugal for building, but also it should be frugal for citizens. And once you reduce the cost of development of applications, automatically it becomes frugal. It should be robust. I mean, frugal means, it should not mean that you should compromise on technology. It must be cutting edge technology. It must be minimal public sector intervention. Don't build everything yourself. That वो जमाना खत्म हो गया. क्योंकि अब इतना ecosystem develop कर गया है that you create a framework, other people will do it. So don't attempt to do things all by yourself. That's not the good way. And this is specifically meant for the collectors of today. What you do, you build solutions hooking on to these DPIs, not build an end-to-end solution yourself. Interoperable, this is also very important. Do you know that there's nothing called CoWIN app? Do you know? No? There's nothing called CoWIN app. CoWIN is just a website and a platform, right? We just published the APIs of CoWIN in the beginning itself. And now there are 150 applications which are providing all services which are available on CoWIN. Paytm, MeitY. Also this Apollo hospitals. All kinds of fellows, you just have the same application that say Arogya Setu, of course. They are all providing applications. Ajay is here and he basically built that Arogya Setu, and Arogya Setu is fully compliant with COVID. Initially it was the only application which we were providing, and later on we just opened it for everybody. So basically just open API, just publish those APIs and then let the game happen. And private competition will happen. Inclusive and encourage diversity. Let it be multi-language. Let it be, let it be fully inclusive, because inclusion is extremely important in our diverse country. That's something which should happen. And is scalable by design for billion to access better services. And of course, privacy and security by design. The privacy groups, they were all talking and saying that Aadhaar violates privacy. So the Supreme Court, you know that privacy became a fundamental right, and then, they started doing whether Aadhaar violates privacy or not. And Aadhaar, which was built in 2009, and it was tested on privacy on 2018, it came out with flying colors. Why? It came out with flying colors because we had built Aadhaar, the security and privacy by design. And the result was that the questions that whether Aadhaar creates profiling, no. Whether Aadhaar creates surveillance, no. Whether Aadhaar actually is able to aggregate all the information, no. 9 questions were framed by Supreme Court, and all of them, the answer was no. Even now, of course, privacy fellows keep on saying whatever they want to say, but essentially it must be privacy and security by design. So what will happen is reduce friction, increase trust, compliance by technology, access to learning, healthcare, product and services. This is what our Prime Minister calls ease of living. Reduce the frictions, somehow use technology for ensuring delivery of services in a non-intermediated manner. पहले क्या होता था कि वो गए साहब, वहाँ पे BDO साहब गए, BDO साहब के पास BLW गए, वहाँ उन्होंने बांटा. Now no BLW, no BDO, nothing. Start on a click of a button, you can just transmit money to somebody's account. And that's the best way to, sort of ensure that money gets delivered without any cost. So cost of delivery becomes zero. So this is how I think this must happen. I think this is the last one. Many countries have done, but the few have the breadth India does. India has done it in fast payments, open finance, open banking, e-KYC, everywhere. And these are the countries: Thailand, Morocco, UK, Brazil, Australia, Singapore. But we are actually intersection of everybody. We are the maximum depth which we have done. And believe me, India has leapfrogged in digital stuff. And in G20, the Digital Economy Working Group, they've all come and they have not realized that digital public infrastructure is the way to go. So essentially, opportunities to build DPIs rather than just digitize and create equitable opportunity for billions is as real as the original idea of internet. And as I said, DPIs are built on the original idea of internet, which is open protocol, open APIs, interoperability, etc., etc. Thank you very much.
We had also request for some questions and answers. If you have any queries, we have Sir with us. Anybody? Any questions? Q&A के लिए the stage is open. आप कोई भी सवाल पूछना चाहते हैं तो we have Shri Sharma ji with us to answer all your questions. Anybody? All right. So with this, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Shri Ram Sevak Sharma ji for his dynamic leadership and even greater vision he has for the country. हम जब घर से बाहर निकलते हैं, one we carry our souls, the second is our Aadhaar card, sir, for sure. So we had request you to kindly stay here for some time. So sir had spoken about the diversity and inclusion at scale, and how India has progressed in the tech requirements in service delivery. Brief but elaborate and very rapid, so is the history of internet in the country. How inclusivity, even though was an endeavor, couldn't be achieved, but has taken its full shape by the backing of DPIs and its elements. And with the super amazing academic skill set which Sir has, he has also shown us very easy analogical theories which were done on grounds of all government approach, DPI approach and all private approach. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening the gathering. And now we would like to call upon stage Shri Abhijit Agrawal ji, Managing Director, Madhya Pradesh State Electronics Development Corporation. So please come up on the stage and let's please join our hands together while we thank our very, very dynamic Shri Ram Sevak Sharma ji. अगर आप सभी की जेबों में अभी आधार कार्ड्स हैं तो प्लीज गिव इट अप अ लिटिल लाउडर. और अगर आप सभी लोग आधार कार्ड बनवाने के लिए लंबी लाइनों में लगे हैं तो एक बार और जोर से तालियां हो जाएं. Because now Ram Sevak sir would also give us a round of applause because sir हम सब बहुत लंबे लंबे queues में लगे हैं because we have had immense faith in your intellect and in your vision. Thank you so much for what you have done for the country. Thank you so much everybody. Let's give it up for Shri Sharma ji. Thank you so much Abhijit sir. And with this we would give a call for a lunch break. We'll gather back by 2:15 here in the same hall. We'll be starting with the panel discussions. The lunch is organized downstairs for which you will have to exit from my right. Orion, we have stairs. You take the staircase, basement. There's the lunch organized for all of you. 2:15 sharp, we start our panel discussions, one in the Grand Hall and two in the Orion Hall. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for being so earful to all of us. Thank you.
आप उस पर डालो, स्विच कर दो यूट्यूब पे आपका
The topic is digital transformation for India's Techade. So nearly every Fortune 500
topic is
company
digital
has
transformation
an
for
R&D
India's
center in
Techade.
India. These
So
are back
nearly
offices
every
for
Fortune
secondary
500
topic is
company
digital
has
transformation
an
for
R&D
India's
center in
Techade.
India.
Innovation. These
So
are
nearly
back offices
every
for
Fortune
secondary
500
topic is
company
digital
has
transformation for
R&D
India's
through
Techade.
the
Innovation.
Jan Dhan
These are
Yojana.
back
India
offices
has
for
got the
secondary
topic is
topic
digital
transformation
million
for
bank
India's
accounts,
Techade.
the Jan Dhan
These
Yojana.
are back
India has
offices
got
for
the
secondary
now
topic
total
is
plus
million
million
bank
bank
accounts.
accounts, the Jan Dhan Yojana. India has got now total plus million bank accounts, the Jan Dhan Yojana. India has got now transformation for India's Techade, a strategic and transformative initiative that centers on leveraging technology. Transformation for India's Techade in the realms of e-governance. Transformative we are being that joined by Shri Alkesh Kumar Sharma ji, Secretary Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. Alkesh Kumar Sharma ji, please your report. Shri Sharma, we are being that joined by Government of India. Shri Sharma, please your report. Shri Sharma, we are being that joined by Government of India.
Then we also have to take leadership in technology, global technology, new and emerging technologies, whether we talk about AI, we talk about quantum compute, quantum communication, quantum materials, anything we do about technology, I think India has to really leapfrog. And that is where India has already taken a lead in that today US is actually partnering with India on most of the digital, on most of the latest new and emerging technologies. We have signed an MOU, ISET of India and the NSA of US have already signed that. So that should take us, so we have to focus on technology. India actually has to become a global hub of emerging technologies. And the last one is about talent. When we talked about in our G20 priorities, we had 3 priorities. One was about this DPI, we have talked about it. Second one was about cyber security or digital security as we called it. That there should be security. Then we also have to take any of these digital applications. And third one was about new and emerging digital skilling. Whether we talk about AI, everyone has to be skilled, nobody should be left behind. We have to bridge the digital divide. Materials, skilling we do about technology, I think India has to really can actually lead. And that is where most India has already taken a lead, who were part of that. Today, US actually said that if you look at the kind of talent deficit most of the developed world today on digital skilling, I think India is the only country which can MOU ISET of India and the NSA. So there's a lot of initiatives already signed that have to be taken on digital talent. So we have to focus on technology. If we can work on that, actually has to become a global hub of emerging technologies. Which is and the last one is about talent. Will actually take us talked about in our huge priorities, achievement priorities. We actually will be able to lead the world. DPI we have talked about it. With this I'll stop here and I'll ask my colleague of digital security as we called it. That they should there should be security. Then we also have to these and they want any of these how we can take India global to the next level new and emerging digital skilling. Whether we talk about AI, everyone has to be skilled, nobody should be left behind. We have to bridge the digital divide. Materials, skilling we do about technology. I think India has to really can actually lead. And that is where most of India has already taken a lead, who were part of that. Today, US actually said that if you look at the kind of talent deficit most of the developed world today on digital skilling and emerging, I think India is the only country which signed an MOU ISET of India and the NSA. So there's a lot of initiatives already signed that have to be taken. So that should take us. So we have to focus on technology. We can work on that. Actually has to be the next global hub of decade of which is and the last one is about talent. Will actually take us. Talked about in our huge achievement priorities. We actually will be able to lead the world. DPI we have talked about it. With this I'll stop here and I'll ask my colleague of digital security as we called it. That they should there should be security. Then we also have these and they want any of these how we can take India global to the next level and emerging digital skilling. Whether we talk about AI.
You can host a restaurant. If you're a taxi driver, you only have a couple of large applications. If you make items for the home or the office, again, you only have a couple of choices. So regardless of which sphere you are in, you only have a couple of options on which you can really access scale. And that was the monopolistic structure of platform infrastructure that Sharma ji was referring to. So one is limited choices. Second, even if you accept those limited choices, the terms and conditions are unviable for most people. As a seller, you send the correct product to the correct consumer in time. The consumer can just say, I don't want it anymore, send it back. And you as a seller now have to pay for it to come back. And if it's not a return, if it's a replacement, then a third time you have to pay for it to go back to the consumer. Now, these are additional financial burdens on the seller that are not of their own making. How much commission they have to pay. In some platforms, some sellers are paying upwards of 50%, and 20 to 30% is not uncommon. Right? And that's a large amount of money to be given out from the overall value chain to just the platform. Third is how much time you have to wait to get your money back. So sometimes it's 10 days, 15 days. And these sellers are operating on very marginal working capital. So if they have to wait 15 days to get their money, how will they buy to be able to sell additional goods? So the financial burden of the existing e-commerce structure is okay for a few large corporations, and that's why we have some penetration. But for a large mass of SMEs, for retailers, for artisans, farmers, it's very, very burdensome, and that's why they don't participate. Now, there are options to e-commerce. You can set up your own website, but if you set up your own website, you don't get traffic, and you have to spend a lot of money to earn and drive the traffic regularly. So one way or the other, existing e-commerce solutions are not ideal for the mass. They're okay for a few large organizations, but they really have not solved it for the masses, which is why the penetration is so low. So how does ONDC do it? It does it on the back of two principles, which we do not see in e-commerce, but we see them in other aspects of our life: unbundling and interoperability. Unbundling simply means that all the business processes are not done by one organization. Now, this is not a new idea outside of e-commerce, right? We do unbundling all the time. You think about every vehicle. The car makers don't make their own tires. Cars are made by one company, tires come from another company. We put it together and we have smooth rides. We don't think about it. Think about the BPO industry, of which India is such an important part. Companies find it perfectly okay to take some of their own business processes and just give it to an outsider company. Why? Because that outsider company does it more efficiently and does it better. So unbundling is how we do everything else in life except e-commerce. Now that is coming to e-commerce courtesy ONDC, where all components of that e-commerce activity are not done by one organization. The second related idea is interoperability, and that's what the protocol allows that Mr. Sharma referred to. So when you have interoperability, then anybody can combine with everyone, and you do not need both parties to be in the same application, right? So we heard the term platform. All e-commerce today around the world, and including in India, was what we call platform commerce, where both the parties have to be registered in the same application. So if I sit on one taxi application, I cannot order a taxi driver from the other application. If I'm shopping on one application, I cannot buy from a seller on another application. Both the buyer and the seller have to be in the same application. That is what is called a platform. It combines everything within. Now, what interoperability does is what we experience in the financial world. And even in the pre-digital era, it was so nice that you could write a check on your bank, give it to somebody, and they could deposit it in their bank account. Imagine if banking was platform where you had to open an account in every bank where you had to pay somebody money. Thank God that wasn't the case. Checks were interoperable. NEFT, IMPS, interoperable. UPI, interoperable. So two parties can have bank accounts in any bank, and you can still send money back and forth. Internationally, SWIFT does the same task. So when you are interoperable, you then allow parties to be on any application to be able to interact with each other and still complete whatever the activity is. Now, in the case of commerce, that never existed. And so what ONDC has built, and you saw a bit of this picture also in Mr. Sharma's presentation, is a protocol. Now, protocol is simply how you communicate between two disparate parties. So we have protocols in everything. We have protocols in email, the simple mail transfer protocol. What is a protocol? It's a very defined way of communicating. So email addresses must be something at something dot something, right? So my email address is shirish@ondc.org. If you don't have the at and dot, then it does not is not compliant with the protocol, and therefore an email will not go. But once the protocol is defined, then you have complete interoperability. A mail sent from Yahoo can go to Gmail, from Gmail to Outlook, from Outlook to something else. These are all interoperable. So any party can be on any application and interact with each other. What ONDC has built is that protocol for commerce. So now in commerce, a buyer can be on any application, a seller can be on any application, but they can complete the commercial interaction as if they were on a single one. Let's understand how this works in a little bit more detail. Every commercial activity has activities that you can divide into broadly three groups of tasks. One are buyer facing. So as shoppers, we do this. We search for products, we build a cart, we make payments. So these are buyer side activities. Similarly, there are seller-facing activities. The seller is uploading their catalog, managing their inventory, managing their orders. And if it's a physical item that is being bought, then there is a delivery service from the seller's location to the buyer's location. And when you go to another platform in the same segment, you will find similar activities. They're all stitched together by a technology. Each platform has their own proprietary technology. So when a buyer searches, that technology searches from the seller's database in that platform and serves the response back to the buyer. Now, these platforms have their own proprietary technology. They don't talk to each other, which is why a buyer on one cannot buy from a seller on another. Now, this changes once ONDC comes in. ONDC says we can unbundle them, which means individual activities can be done by different organizations, and we will make them interoperable by connecting them with a public protocol. So the ONDC protocol is public. ONDC is to e-commerce what HTTPS is to the internet. It's just a protocol and a registry. But that allows parties to interact with each other. And the solution you get is still the same. There are still buyer-facing activities, seller-facing activities, delivery activities. They are still connected by technology. Differences, different activities done by different organizations and connected by a protocol that is not proprietary but public. Now, what does this do? This leads to a network where different parties are doing different activities. Somebody's doing buyer activities, somebody's seller activities, and you get a network where everybody interacts with everyone. So now a buyer on any application can buy from a seller on any other application, and either party can choose a delivery service from yet another application and complete that journey. Now, this is not an academic rearrangement of parts. This actually leads to very powerful possibilities. Let's start with the buyer side. Any organization that has a user base for anything can now become a buyer application. You do not have to be an e-commerce organization. Today on our network, we have two payment companies which are buyer application, Paytm and PhonePe. We have two banks which are a buyer application, IDFC and Kotak. Very soon we will have a telecom company, Airtel, that will be a buyer application. We have a television channel that's going to become a buyer application. Right? Why? Because they have a viewer, a reader, a customer of some other service, and all they have to do is connect them to the network. They don't have to search for the seller or identify the seller and bring them to the network. That somebody else has done. So you bring your buyer pool to the network and allow them to shop from whatever sellers are there on the network. So that's one liberation. The second liberation is on the seller side. Now, anybody who's interacting with any manufacturer, seller, retailer, artisan, handicraft maker, farmer can bring that party to the network and their catalog and make them visible to the network. One simple example is the point of sale software that is there when you go into a shop and there's a computer that provides you with the bill. Now, that's a point of sale software that knows the catalog and inventory of the store. When that adopts the API protocols of ONDC, that shop becomes visible to the network. So now on a telecom application, a buyer can place an order on a restaurant that is on a point of sale software application and still be able to complete the transaction. Similarly, other parties will bring delivery services. So when you bring this together, you get a network which has all the parts brought by different entities. And you have buyers brought in by buyer applications, seller brought by seller applications, logistics by logistics applications. In the network, you have all the components. Now, this is the conceptual model. And this is the reality. Today we have 14 buyer applications collectively who are pulling in more than 100 million buyers. Some of these names are very familiar to you, like Paytm, Kotak Bank, etc. that I mentioned. We have 41 seller applications that have brought in more than 47,000 sellers. Actually, since the presentation got made, that number is now inching closer to 60,000. And more than 50 lakh SKUs. And we have 7 logistics applications providing both intercity and hyperlocal delivery. So now a buyer, let's say on Spice Money buyer application, can buy a Unilever product from UShop. So we have brands and companies also on the network as seller. Unilever is live, Procter & Gamble is live, ITC is live, Boat Electronics is live, Blue Star is live, Ferns and Petal is live. And so now you can buy a shampoo and a bouquet of flowers if that's the combination you want to do in a single basket and check out. That's the ability that an unbundled interoperable network is able to bring. Right? And this is only the start. We have a pipeline of more than 11,000 organizations in various stages of conversation, and soon a lot of them will be joining also onto the network. So what does any individual organization need to do to be part of e-commerce? You simply have to plug in yourself to the network. You do not have to worry about the additional services. If you're a manufacturer, just plug in your manufacturer's catalog. Somebody else will bring buyers, somebody else will bring delivery, somebody else will provide payment gateways. All you've got to do is just plug in your catalog and you become part of e-commerce. If you are, let's say, a media company, let's say you're a newspaper, you have a readership, you can become a buyer application. Just plug in your readers into the network. Somebody else is bringing the seller, somebody else is doing the delivery. Suddenly you're not just a media entity, you're now a shopping application. So now it allows people to become part of e-commerce, and we believe India's diversity cannot be solved by a single solution. And therefore, when you make it interoperable like this, you allow different kinds of entities to join hands and create different kinds of solutions and allow the variety of commerce to take place. This is what is live today, and this is only the start. So we have many categories live: food and beverage, grocery, home and kitchen, decor, electronics, appliances, beauty, personal care, agriculture products. So we have farm inputs live on our network: seeds, fertilizers, saplings. We have farmers on the network and FPOs, and they're also selling on the network, right? So even that is available on the network. B2C, B2B, both is available on the network. B2B, we've begun with grocery and fashion retailers buying from distributors of those products. Very soon we'll have other kinds of B2B also live. The first international cross-border order will hopefully happen by September. So a seller in India will sell to a buyer sitting outside on a buyer application on ONDC protocol in that country. So this is not going to be only an India-confined network. It's actually going to be a global network. Financial products are coming soon: insurance, mutual funds, loans, credit, all of that will be available soon. Services of various kinds: teaching services, repair services, gig workers, all of that will also be available on the network. So one by one, this will really encompass all types of commerce, and we will achieve that vision with all your cooperation. So this is not the ONDC company doing everything. It's the collective effort of everyone that will take it where it has to go to the destination. Often people say, what is different, right? So now, what is different will evolve over time. And we cannot predict everything at the beginning. So if you think about the phone camera, when the phone camera first came, all we could think of was simple daylight pictures. But now there is internet on the phone and we can do video conferencing. So solutions evolve over time. This is on the screen just one example of something that is possible even today. So let's say a person is relocating from one city to another. You typically have multiple needs. You want to buy a suitcase to pack your stuff, buy an air ticket to get there. You want accommodation in your destination. If it's a place with a different language, you might want to learn that language. Today you have to go to 4 different platforms, 4 different journeys, 4 different experiences to get that. Once everything is on a single network, in a single application, you will add suitcase, flight ticket, hotel room, language lesson, check out, and you're done. Right. Today, you can't even do that. And so like this, new solutions will be found. Today, many companies have already started discovering new business cases, new business opportunities, getting into businesses that they are not in. I think all of you know, well-known taxi companies have tried to do food delivery as part of growing their revenue services. Yesterday, Ola went live on ONDC as a buyer application. In Delhi and Bangalore on the Ola taxi booking app, you can buy restaurant food through the ONDC network. That's how simple it has become. Many benefits. For buyers, the benefit, as this example illustrated, is the opportunity to buy multiple products through a single application, multiple options. For sellers, lots of benefits. Sellers can now, with a single registration, access all buyers. Today, sellers have to register on multiple platforms. Now, because of ONDC, they just have to register once and they can access all the buyers in the network. It's very similar to putting one SIM card in your phone and you can call everybody on all phone operators around the world, right? You don't have to go and register your phone on individual phone networks. It's a network. So the moment your phone is on, anybody in the world can call you, you can call everyone. So similarly, a seller, once they register on the network through one seller application, all buyers on all buyer platforms can see you. Now imagine how powerful this is for a small seller. Today I mentioned we have 14 buyer applications with 100 million plus buyers. A small home manufacturer also, moment they register on any seller application, 100 million buyers can potentially buy from that person. To do that same thing today, they would have to spend a lot, either pay money to a platform or spend a lot in customer acquisition, which now they will not have to do. They can operate on their own terms and conditions. Now they don't have to follow standard platform terms and conditions. If you want to deliver nationally, deliver it. If you want to deliver in your city, deliver there. If you want to deliver only in your PIN code, that's also your choice. You want to return whatever people send back, that's also your choice. You don't want anybody to return anything, that's also your choice. How much commission you want to pay, how much time you're willing to wait. You can operate on your terms and conditions. So now you can do e-commerce only in that circle that is profitable for you. And you can automatically reject all the unprofitable orders that you might have to live with if you join the platform. You'll get data insights. Platforms don't share insights, but seller applications do. So you'll have insights on your business to grow it further. The reputation belongs to you. It is not locked inside a platform. So all your hard work and effort, your reputation is actually your asset. Today, when a seller builds a good reputation and they join a new platform, they have to start from zero. Not on ONDC. Reputation is yours. If you change your seller application, it stays with you. So buyers, sellers, technology companies all have a chance now to scale up dramatically with very little on their part, right? So one of the principles Sharma ji also mentioned was frugal. It has to be frugal not only for people who create it, it has to be frugal for people who use it. Today ONDC is free, but even if we charge it, it will be a very, very minuscule charge that will almost be not noticeable in the transaction. And joining is very, very easy, very, very simple. Finally, just a few thoughts on what we are not, because we're bringing everything together. We are ourselves not an aggregator. We are not an app. You will not log into ONDC. You will log into some app or the other, which is registered on ONDC, like I mentioned, Ola or Paytm, any of these applications. Much like you do with UPI. Today, you can do UPI through WhatsApp, right? You don't log into UPI itself, but you have many applications that have the UPI protocol. Similarly, there are already many applications with the ONDC protocol. In the future, there will be more. So you need an app with the ONDC protocol, and you'll be able to shop for anything that is there on the network. ONDC is also not one model. ONDC is actually infinite model. So depending on what combination of buyer, seller, delivery services, you can decide what combination works for you. You want to go pick up yourself, you can do that. You want to order from 10 stores and have one delivery service pick up from all 10 and bring it to you, you can choose that. So there's an opportunity for buyer and seller to determine what is the most optimal model rather than be reliant only on what a platform is providing. There is no central intermediary. A network does not have a central intermediary. And therefore, there's no opportunity for somebody to accumulate that power in the middle. And we work with the ecosystem. So we will work with you, we'll work with your sector and enable your sector to join the network with the knowledge and experience you have in each sector. So we don't profess to have all the knowledge and all capability, but we expect to harness collective knowledge and grow the network across sectors. So we are at a pretty decent scale today. I mentioned the SKUs and sellers. We have at least one seller in nearly 300 cities. We are actually announced to consumers through the applications, of course, not in public media, through the respective applications to their users that they can shop for anything. But actually, we are available in many more, and there are 37 cities. We are now clocking regular orders of more than 100 a month for the last 3 months. So that's it for an introduction, and I look forward to more exciting news from other panelists. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much, Shri Shirish Joshi ji. Shri Shirish Joshi ji is Chief Business Officer for Open Network for Digital Commerce, ONDC. He's responsible for expanding the network in terms of participants and domains. Previously, he held roles of Procter & Gamble, PepsiCo, Airtel and Godrej, where he managed multiple brands, geographies and market positions simultaneously and worked on businesses across India, China and South Asia. Working with various cultures and languages, and has over 30 years of experience delivering successful results in organizations and teams of varying capabilities and scale. An industry and function leader, he often speaks at industry conferences, serves on various marketing award juries. He is an alumnus of IIT Kanpur and IIM Bangalore. Thank you so much, sir, for all the insights that you have brought to the day. And now, moving forward, we are going to get joined by virtually Shri Manoj Kumar Belgaonkar, General Manager, Siemens Limited. Mr. Belgaonkar, with 30 years of experience in quality management, business excellence with Siemens across different business cycles of turnaround, growth, transformation of processes within different business types of products, projects, services. He is a senior member, National Board of Quality Promotion, Quality Council India, joining us virtually.
You are live, sir. Yes. Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Sir, please continue.
The stage instructs Mr. Belgaonkar has muted his own mic. If you can check it over a call.
Sorry, can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir. Please.
Hello, can
Yes,
you hear
sir.
me?
Yes, yes. Hear us.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Please.
So let me just put it on a full screen mode.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. So first of all, thank you very much for having me as part of this prestigious event and also accepting my request for virtual participation. So we heard Dr. Sharma in the morning and we also heard Mr. Joshi in ONDC. So you can see many of the topics which were part of manufacturing, which were part of logistics, they are converting into services. So how are we now going to measure this digital transformation in services? And services could be of all types. So what we are proposing with Dr. Panchal, Dr. Shah from NMIMS and Nirma University is a framework to measure this whole digital transformation in services so that the organizations can charter their course or can also adjust their service levels. So when citizens, they're availing these public services, obviously their satisfaction is linked not only to the outcome, but also to the process through which these services are availed. And to begin with, of course, when one starts looking for a services, we just heard in earlier session that when one starts looking at these services, we first would like to have information. And this really allows us to determine a factor. Because many times the need may not be there, but still I'm looking for the information. So at some point of time when I need it, at least I have the reference for it. When I start availing these services, obviously I would like to have the friendliness of the person or maybe the app. So the customer experience, what we are talking about, but at the same time, the competence of the service providers also makes a difference to this whole process. So how do we improve this service performance? Of course, by service performance, we mean as conformance to the service outcomes and outcomes to the requirements what are defined, which may be in terms of service levels, which may be in terms of specific deliverables. And what are the key elements of this achieving these outcomes is the process through which these outcomes are produced. It could be an online platform and hybrid platform as well. So generally the outcomes are well defined, but the process part is actually a little bit of open-ended, and which depends on the interactions, how they are handled, and sometimes which may involve a multiple touch point, which could be an authentication, which could be trying to check whether the part is available. So many of these multiple touch points are involved, online and offline. Coming to the process part, it certainly depends on the skills and competencies of the employees. And this is where also HR practices play an important role. To what extent the policies, procedures and practices, whether documented or followed, are supportive, are creating his enthusiasm to be part of this whole process. Because sitting for 8 hours a day, just talking to the people, delivering the services is not very easy part. And lastly, the technology. How easy it is to use this technology both for buyer and for seller, and ultimately how the technology also can add value to provide a better experience. So point is looking at the conformance to the requirements, looking at the process, looking at the technology and the people part. So technology, process and people part, how do we handle these three elements of the whole experience? So 4 key dimensions which we have thought of. Number 1, of course, the most important part is the purpose served. Second is the digital inclusion, who all can access this. Then digital intelligence part, DGI, and the service value addition, what can be done. So purpose served. In terms of a purpose served, of course, as an organization, when I'm talking purpose served, as an organization which is offering digital service, they definitely would like to monitor the service process level so that it's consistent and delivering high performance. But at the same time, in case of any below expectations outcome, obviously you would like to also diagnose and prevent a similar occurrence in the future. Sometimes when it's only a temporary outcome, for example, so you would like to also predict well in advance. Okay, this is what maybe there is an festival coming up. So how would you like to predict the outcome? How you would like to predict the traffic, accordingly design the outcome of your process. At the same time, there could be some disturbances also, and because of which the outcome may get jeopardized, and that's why you would like to also do a troubleshooting part of it. And lastly, of course, you would like to optimize your process in terms of resources or in terms of adjusting the service levels as well. So you can look at these dimensions, and with respect to the process part, you can look at all these elements and see what is the percentage of process which is being digitized, and to that extent, how design a score with respect to the purpose served because of these. The second topic which we spoke about, our parameter, was digital inclusion, and which is in terms of penetration of digital technologies in the service organization. So it's not only the last part or maybe the initial part, but what all is involved as part of this. So within the organization, people using this digital technology for their service delivery process. So how many people are involved, maybe in registering, in prioritizing, in making it available, in delivering, taking customer feedback, making reports, the billing part of it. So how many people who all are involved in this, using this digital technology and these activities. So depending on both these elements, number of people involved, percentage of people involved, percentage of activities involved, also you get a second dimension of this framework. The third dimension is about with respect to the public or customer benefits derived out of these whole services. Maybe, and this is where it comes in terms of they are not using technology at all. So maybe level 1. So this is kind of a maturity of the whole process, or there is a minimal use, major part is used, most of the portion of the service delivery is via digital technology, or service delivery is completely based on digital technology. So depending on these 5 levels, for each of these services, so if an organization provides say 20 services, then for each of these services you can have a rating, and based on that you can have overall DGI score out of these 20 scores for the organization. And lastly, most important, I think the value addition part also. So how does the role of digital technology plays to add value to this satisfaction? And this is where also you can look at in terms of value addition in the outcome and value addition as part of a process experience. So these are the 2 dimensions which can also be used for each of these services to define their outcome. And lastly, to put it together, that these 4 dimensions, and there will be a lot of correlations which one can derive out of this, and they could be based on activities, the resource people who will execute these activities, the technology with which these activities will be executed, and the value additions by the technology. So depending on these 4 dimensions, one can find the correlation to take it to the next level of customer experience. And lastly, I think managing this digital transformation in services is really essential to scale the same. And this is where the framework will enable to gain transparency with respect to creating a purpose-driven roadmap. So I want to first begin with this and then go to the next level, etc., to optimize the resources, to enhance the service levels, and lastly, to ensure the non-discretionary access. So everyone will have access to this services part of it. So that's the paper actually which we have submitted, which will be published also by the organizers, and I'm open for questions or for the discussion on this topic. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Sri Belgaonkar. Now the stage is open for Q&A. Any questions you have? We have our speakers to answer your queries. Anybody? Yes, there is somebody. Can you please pass over a mic to the lady?
Hi, my name is Preeti. I'm from a company called Probby Software. We're into e-governance. And first of all, I'd like to say this platform has been a brilliant experience so far. And we've got to hear some great inputs about what the country is doing and how far it's coming ahead with various digital initiatives. My question is to Mr. Shirish. You spoke about ONDC, and I think it's quite fascinating. Person like me who's forever on my phone, ordering from Zomato, ordering from Amazon. My mom's fed up with all the parcels coming in. And every time a new platform, whether it's Amazon or Nykaa or Myntra. So I think this will be great for me to have one app. I mean, like you said, it's not an app, it'll be just one platform. But I just wanted to understand about the user experience. While these people who've got so much of funding, and ONDC, if I'm not wrong, is a non-for-profit, where they've got fundings from investors from across the world. How are you all making, how are you making money? How are you all able to sustain? And how will you be able to pump in money for user experiences, what I'm getting and the simplicity I'm getting on various other platforms? And my part 2 question is, who will own the liability with so much of returns and the logistics and everything? What happens to liability when, when these people have their own delivery platforms, whereas over here there's third party? So, yeah. Thank you.
No, it's not. Now it is. Okay. So you may sit down, Preeti. That's fine. So first of all, be assured, I'm getting my salary. The company is funded. We are a non-for-profit organization, so we're not in it for profit. We do not need to make money. And the parallel to think about us is not an existing e-commerce player, because that's the model all of us have. We are not like any one of them. Right? We are like the internet. So now your question to ask is, how does the HTTPS and the ICANN registry, how much money do they make and how much money do they need to make? Who gives you the user experience on the internet? They don't give you. It's a browser who gives you the experience. It's the website makers who give you that experience, not the internet protocol. So the experience is created by the applications. UPI is not giving you the experience. A PhonePe will, a Google Pay will, a Paytm will. They are giving you the experience. The QR code is the same. There's not much of an experience in a QR code. So the experience is created by applications that build themselves on the infrastructure. Another example, highways. Highways don't give you the experience. The car that you sit in, or the bus you sit in, or the truck you sit in, or the auto rickshaw you sit in, that is what is giving you the experience. That is not built by the highway company. So infrastructure is exactly that. It's infrastructure. The user experience is built by people who have the ability and the right to do it. So the 14 buyer applications that I mentioned, some of them already are in some sort of a user experience. Right? So the payment companies know how to handle user experience for payment. Now they're learning what it means to do for shopping. So they have a bit of learning to do. But they are well-funded organizations. They are very consumer-centric organizations. And they're all very, very mindful of how to build the user experience. And they're already making changes to the shopping, which you actually do not see from existing applications. Just to illustrate one example, PIN code, for example, said that shopping is a very different experience from payment. You can see it in Sameer's public speech as well. Right? And different people shop for different things differently. Because of their experience with Myntra, they know people leave clothes that they've selected in their shopping cart for months. So what PIN code has done in the shopping application is you have a cart by store that you select. And when you're checking out, you can decide which of those carts you want to check out. Right? So that's now a new experience. So they have actually gone beyond what existing applications are doing. And so being freed from that constraint that one party has to build everything, then only a few people can. And we see that result. Now when you free that people up, different people will bring a lot more innovation. And so I think the funding related to innovation is actually reverse. I think it's the freedom that will lead to innovation, not the funding. If funding had to lead to innovation, they would not be clones of each other. Right. Now, the second part of your question was to do with trust on the network, returns and so on. And again, in any network, the responsibilities are very clear. And actually, when we do unbundled service elsewhere, we're not very confused, right? So let's say I use my credit card to buy an airline ticket on a travel portal. I will get SMSs from all three. My credit card will send me a message that so much money was debited. The travel portal will say your ticket has been booked. The airline will send me a message as well. I am not confused who's providing me what. Right? So if the flight doesn't take off or my luggage gets lost, I don't talk to the credit card or the travel agent. But if my name is spelled wrong on the ticket that was issued to me, I don't talk to the airline, it's not their fault. So when we do unbundled activities, we're actually very clear when we do it in other spheres of our life. We've never seen it in e-commerce, but it's actually equally clear. So seller is responsible for product quality, buyer application is responsible for buyer experience, and so you as a buyer will report to your buyer application that I didn't get what I wanted. The buyer application on the protocol will be able to communicate with the seller, and between them over the protocol, they will resolve it. If they can't resolve it, there's a grievance mechanism also on the protocol, and there is an online dispute resolution mechanism as well. The law requires companies who are in e-commerce to have a grievance officer. So all buyer applications and seller applications on ONDC by law have a grievance officer. So you will be taken care of.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any more questions?
There's one in the front row here. There's one in the front row here. You can bring the microphone.
Get the mic here.
Good afternoon, sir. This is a question to Sri sir. Sir, we were discussing, one is the point is as I had been interacting with some of my seniors and people who have worked on these big e-commerce platforms, the account generation is a very improper and people are not very clear how much profit they are making. So this can be a very interesting use case to pitch for a marketing strategy probably. Because people, I will not name such platforms, but the way they do the bookkeeping and the accounting, people are actually confused. So this platform, simplicity as well as the accounting mechanism, how easy a user can be a buyer or a seller, especially for the buyer when he gets to know what is the IRR of the wholesale proceeds. That can be one of the point for maybe nudging. Secondly, sir, since I'm also handling the state IT, state ITs have not been, I think, onboarded in the whole affair. Like we are actually not aware what all has been done. So if a session can be held in, we'll be more than welcoming you to have a session wherein we can get in such kind of users and the stakeholders.
Sure. So in fact, your first observation is actually borne out in reality. One of the categories that is live on a network are ride hailing. And so we have an application that is providing auto rickshaw rides in Bangalore city. It's now hit a scale where we estimate we're about 1/3 of the market there. The money that the rider pays is paid directly to the auto rickshaw rider. It's not paid to the platform. So the auto rickshaw rider is getting the full amount directly in their hand immediately. Right, so now that's there's no reconciliation required there. And in future, if the platform charges, they will charge not as part of the transaction, maybe a subscription fee, so they're working out their payment models. But the auto rickshaw driver now gets the money directly in the hand, which is how they used to get in the good old days. So it is now possible to have much more cleaner, simpler systems because you don't really have the intermediaries of old. What was the second part that you mentioned?
So second is state engagements.
The state engagement. So we've engaged with a few states initially in a much more, I would say, ad hoc fashion. But 2 weeks ago, on the 11th, we had a full-day workshop with nodal officers that every state government has appointed. Usually when we meet with state governments, the interest tends to be startup infrastructure because there's opportunity for them, agriculture because that employs a large part of the economy, handicrafts and artisans, small industries, those tend to be the first conversations. In some cases, it even goes to mobility. So the West Bengal government wanted us to get started with taxi services, which we've actually begun. They're now in pilot phase there. So these are conversations we have at the state government level in that fashion. There's a nodal officer for every state. We had a workshop with all the 36 state and union territories to explain how the program works. And now we expect to go on working with them. But don't wait for your state. You can reach out to me, exchange cards at the end of this, and we can get started with your...
Last point, sir, for me is suppose there are certain products which are not perishable kind of a thing. So in this hyper-local model, which actually optimizes the delivery cost, that will remain to be a dampener, especially since it's a buyer and a seller relation, and somebody who is sitting in Bihar, seller is in Bihar and the buyer is in, say, Delhi. Okay. And if the same thing is available in Delhi, So how to actually build a strategy to beat this logistic cost, which will still be a dampener per unit, per kg or per unit kind of a cost.
Sure. Now, the idea is who should make that decision. Right? Now, as a buyer, you should decide what do you want. Do you want the most best rated? That might be a manufacturer in Bihar, in which case you go for that. You want the fastest delivery? That should be the nearest one. You want the cheapest delivery? That could be a different solution. Right? So as a buyer, you should be able to choose. Intermediary should not double guess what it is and only make that available. That's what ONDC allows you to do, which is on any buyer application, you can choose to shop the way you would like to shop. Importantly, today, you don't get to create your own delivery solutions. Right? So for example, when you're ordering different items, each item becomes an independent order. Let's say you're ordering food from 3 different restaurants. You'll be charged 3 different delivery services. You don't have the opportunity to go pick up from all 3 in a single route and come. But one of the use cases that can potentially be brought very easily on our network is the buyer buys the delivery service, buyer identifies which are all the stores that they have bought from, and a single delivery rider goes and picks it up and brings it, reducing your overall cost of delivery. Now, that's not an existing live solution, but that's just one idea that somebody can build very easily. So the opportunity is there for people to figure out and build businesses, and for entrepreneurs to spot opportunities like this and build a solution very easily. Because to build that solution, you don't need the sellers, you don't need the buyers, you just need to build that software layer. Without ONDC, you would have had to build the entire system. So it makes it easy for that kind of innovation to take place.
Thank you, sir.
One more question.
Yeah, so I'll just...
Ma'am, you'll have to tell us when our time is up. Huh?
Just building on that. So as a buyer, do I also choose my logistics partner, or is it left to the seller's preference?
Currently live on the network, sellers are choosing, but very soon we'll make the buyer option also live.
Yeah, so that was an observation, because when you buy something from, as you were saying, I mean, I have personally bought something, and the cost of transport is too high at this point of time.
Yes.
So unless we are able to either intervene in terms of providing warehousing or some logistic support, the prices will remain at a level which is non-sustainable. So I think that's one bottleneck we see. Second question I had for you was, are you still limited in terms of your infrastructure, that is compute infrastructure or something, and that's why it's kind of going on a slightly low-key scale-up, or are we fully ready to scale it up as to whatever level we are?
It's not our infrastructure, right? It's the same question as the internet.
Correct.
So it's not the internet's infrastructure.
I agree.
So if people have the capacity, it's for them to invest. So the question actually is to the economic ecosystem. Now, this is a new idea, and it takes some discussion to understand it. Sometimes the application is not simply that, okay, I do physical retail, I now come on ONDC, or I do e-commerce somewhere, I come on ONDC. Sometimes it is that simple, sometimes it's not that simple, because people have to figure out, does it work for them, in what way does it work, does it allow a new use case. So that discussion of their own business strategy takes time, which is why it's taken time. So it's nothing to do with the infrastructure, it has to do with just digesting a completely new idea and coming to grips with it and then moving forward on it.
And how easy to onboard? For example, I'm a farmer and I grow, whatever, dal or whatever, and I want to sell it to consumers everywhere.
It should be a couple of hours.
Fantastic.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, all the speakers. And with this, we conclude our session number 1, which was Digital Transformation for India's Techade. For a formal gratitude and appreciation expression, we would like to call upon stage Srimati Priska Matthew, Deputy Secretary, DAR-PG, to please come on the stage, ma'am. And we'd like everybody to join while we thank Shri Alkesh Kumar Sharma ji, Secretary, Ministry of Electronics, Information Technology, who was also chairing it. As you say, sir. So we had request Shri Shirish Joshi ji to kindly receive. We'd like to thank you on behalf of DAR-PG for your support and time, for bringing in all the insights to the gathering. Thank you so much. We had also thanked Shri Alkesh Kumar Sharma ji, Secretary, MeitY. Thank you so much, sir. Would you like to? Yes, sir. Absolutely on time. Not that we had want to listen to you all, but we'd like to respect the time of other speakers as well. Thank you so much for joining us here on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please hear it for our amazing speakers? Moving forward, adaptation of emerging technologies for providing citizen-centric services in India has seen unprecedented growth. Aim to restyle how citizens can avail the government services and participate. Aadhaar, UPI, CoWIN, DigiLocker, Bharat Bill Payment System, GEM, MyGov, eCodes, eHospital, National Scholarship Portals, Goods and Services Tax Network, and many others stand as live testaments to effective execution of e-governance. The integration of emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, the Internet of Things, and data analytics resonates deeply with India's ambition to propel itself into the digital age while ensuring equitable access for all citizens. These technologies have the power to reshape the contours of governance, steering it towards a more participatory and citizen-responsive direction. To take discussion to its systematic, orderly, and detailed construction, our next panel discussion is being chaired by the one who is a pioneer in the design and implementation of e-government programs and projects in India. He was associated with over 20 major e-government projects at the state and national levels: e-Seva, Passport Seva, MCA 21, Bangalore 1, AP Online, e-Tal, to name few. He has been instrumental in the design of several policies, including on cyber security and adoption of cloud technologies, Meghraj. He has been advising the Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution, India World Economic Forum since 2020 on projects concerned with responsible deployment of emerging technologies in agriculture, health, and education. To understand emerging technologies for providing citizen-centric services, please join me in welcoming on stage Shri J. Satyanarayana, former Secretary, Ministry of Electronics, Information Technology. And on the panel, we'll be joined by Dr. Ratan U. Kelkar, Secretary, IT Kerala, who will be joining us virtually. Professor Anjali Kaushik, MDI, Gurgaon. Shri Shankar Maruwada, CEO, X-Step Foundation. And Dr. Pallab Saha, GM, The Open Group. We welcome all the speakers on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, can we cybersecurity domain and has published more than 35 papers in peer-reviewed international journals. She belongs to the first batch of lady officers in Indian Air Force and is a Chevening Oxford Fellow. She's a PhD from Delhi University and a postgraduate in cyber law from National Law School of India, University